We had another dialogue in June, on 13 June in Nepal, Kathmandu, where there was discussion on how to improve the economic relationship between these two countries. But before that, before we start the proceeding, I would like to also give a background that why this initiative has been launched. I would like to thank His Excellency Ambassador Ganesham Bhandari, who is the Ambassador, Embassy of Nepal in Dhaka. This is, in fact, his initiative. So he mobilized some of the partners in Nepal, and also he then approached CPD whether we can take forward this discussion before it goes to the policy level, because the think tanks, through their research and analysis, can chart out a path on how to improve the economic relationship, be it in trade or in other areas. So I would like to thank once again His Excellency Mr. Bhandari for this excellent initiative, because this is so important. And as has always been discussed, that within South Asia, we have interregional trade is very little, though South Asia is a home to a large number of population, but trade among these countries is only about 5 to 6% of the total trade which takes place in the region, which is very, very low. But there is huge potential. So how we can improve the trade relationship within South Asia broadly, and more specifically bilaterally also between Bangladesh and Nepal. And also now this bilateral trade or regional trade has become more important than ever before in the context of the evolving geopolitical situation, as we are already observing a turbulent trade scenario because of the reciprocal tariff of the United States. Countries like Bangladesh and Nepal, which have huge potential, but the trade has not taken place as much as it should have. So they are to face the challenges if they are not prepared. So in that context, we thought that after this Nepal dialogue, we would organize another one in Dhaka. And then this discussion will carry on, and the objective is also to engage the policymakers, because at the end of the day, this is the policymakers who would be implementing any economic relationship between governments. You can say that from track 2, our objective is to take it to track 1. With these few remarks, I would like to start the proceedings of today's dialogue. So we have presentations, one from Bangladesh side and one from Nepal side, and then we have a list of distinguished panelists who would share their insights, and we have open floor discussions, and then before we move on to the special guests of today's. But I would like to once again thank each of you. As you can see, this is a very small group. We intentionally kept it very small and focused so that we have some concrete recommendations and concrete discussions. So, and each of you will be sharing your insights and also recommendations. That's our expectation. And we also have not invited the media, as in typical CPD dialogues, you have huge number of participants and a lot of media friends are there, but since this is a closed-door discussion and more of a brainstorming session, you can say, so that's why we kept it very close and focused. And these are the people who are around the table. They are the special people with deep knowledge on the subject. So with this, let me start. I would like to, we have two presentations, as I have mentioned. So from Bangladesh side, from Center for Policy. Yes, sure. I'm just introducing from Bangladesh side, Ms. Afreen Mahbub, Program Associate, she will present, and from Nepal Economic Forum, Mr. Amand Pant, he will make his presentation. But before that, I would also like to request Mr. Sujib Shakia, who is the chair of Nepal Economic Forum, founder. He's the founder and CEO, and in the management of this private limited. So I would like to request Mr. Sujib Shakia to make his introductory remarks.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Famida Khatun, for your kind welcome. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it's so wonderful to be in such a wonderful, vibrant city. I've always been charmed by Dhaka. For someone who spent some years in Calcutta studying, so the language, the food, the culture is so similar, so I feel very much at home when I get to Dhaka. So it's wonderful that this initiative has started. And I would also like to acknowledge the initiative. This began when Dr. Devapriya Bhattacharya was last year in Kathmandu for the Himalaya Future Forum that we hosted, and we said we should do something together. And after that, this has begun. We also, I'm happy that Ambassador Tariq Karim is there, one of our advisory board members of the Himalaya Future Forum. And as Dr. Khatun mentioned, this initiative, I mean, we have to acknowledge the sort of behind-the-scenes role of our ambassador, Ghanshyam Bhandari, for his he got us together. He has been a guiding force, and I think definitely, as everybody would agree, that his tenure here in the past couple of years has been exemplary in terms of building back Nepal-Bangladesh bilateral relations. And I think this is one of the initiatives that we also would like to contribute. And also, before I go in further, I'd like to thank the CPD team that has been, who has organized this, and the warm hospitality. At the Nepal Economic Forum, the presenter Amand Pant, Senior Fellow, is there, Arya, team members there, Bibek Kaudel, a Senior Fellow, he's also joining us, and Sudeep Baju, who is an Executive Board Member at Nepal Economic Forum, he's joining in. So what I'll try to do is to keep it brief, just a quick introduction to, first, a quick introduction to Nepal Economic Forum, and how does what the bilateral work we are doing falls under the work we are doing with the Himalaya Future Forum, and few things that we would like to see in the future. So Nepal Economic Forum is a think tank, a private sector-led think tank. We started in 15 years ago. It's funded and it's structured as part of the BEAD Management, the international consulting firm that we work with, and that's how Nepal Economic Forum has come into being. And we have some robust fellowship and internship program that attracts the best of talents and minds. And so we've got different programs like the Business Policy Research Center, the Center for Digital Transformation, the Global Nepali Network, Center for Private Sector Dialogue. And this comes under what we call is the Nepal in the World program, where we are trying to rewrite and we are trying to build relationship, bilateral, multilateral relationship with different institutions. And so just to quickly, the second to talk about the Himalaya Future Forum. The Himalaya Future Forum is a multi-stakeholder program. So we had our inaugural meet in February 2024, and the next one is going to be hosted on the 6th and 7th February of 2026. And we focus on climate, community, and connectivity. And as you know, I was last month in Europe attending a lot of meetings, similar meetings like this. We started with the Alpine Forum, trying to figure out the challenges we have in the Himalayas, and the challenges in the Alpine region is not different. Similarly, you know, when the crow flies, or when air pollution moves, or disaster happens, there's no international boundary. If there's flooding in the north, there's flooding in the south. And if there, smoke comes from the south, it hits the north. So how do you work around that? So that's what Himalaya Future Forum tries to do. And connectivity is important for us. There are G2G platforms, B2B platforms, but what we like to work on is people-to-people platform. And this is one of it. People-to-people, we had this is a great example of how we would further the people-to-people dialogue. And finally, coming to what we are looking at, I think as we just discussed before getting into the room, we were talking about tariffs. It's a very complicated new world order. They're very disruptive, I would say. And when disruptive things happens, multilateral agencies we've seen historically get impacted, and which means that we have to have more bilateral platforms to look at. And there are opportunities, and I think I'm very happy. My friend Fahim is here. Patao is operating in Nepal and is doing a great job. And so we are seeing that there are Bangladeshi companies in Nepal. We see a lot of number of tourists from Bangladesh. We are seeing a lot of students from Nepal here. So how do we, these are things that are happening, but very little known. So how do we further that? And I think that's the focus as far as Nepal Economic Forum is concerned, is to see that how do we further the connectivity, and as Dr. Khatun was mentioning, to say that this is sort of a track 2 platform, but how does this move into track 1? And it's great to have Ambassador Bandari here, who's furthering the track 1 part also. We have been seeing a multiple government G2G dialogues taking place. So with that, I would stop here, and I would let the colleagues take the deliberation further. Once again, thank you very much for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shakia, for your remarks. We have beside me, we have set of distinguished panelists who would be making special remarks. But as I have mentioned, that each of you are also full of knowledge, and you have a wealth of knowledge and experience which you'll be sharing. But let me just also introduce who are the panelists. Mr. Ayush Podel. He is the Research Officer, South Asia Watch on Trade, Economics and Environment, Saudi. Ms. Arya Awal, Project Coordinator, Nepal Economic Forum. Mr. Fahim Ahmed, CEO, Patao Limited. Mr. Sudeep Bhaju, Private Sector Specialist. Professor Mustafizur Rahman, Distinguished Fellow, CPD, our own Trade Specialist. Dr. Shikha Thapa Magar, Executive Director, Nepal Development Research Institute, NDRI. And we have special guests, Mr. Mohammad Abdul Razak, who is the Chief Executive Officer, Additional Charge, Bangladesh Foreign Trade Institute, BFTI, and His Excellency Mr. Ganesham Bhandari, Ambassador, Embassy of Nepal, Bangladesh, Dr. Syed Muntasir Mamun, Director General, International Trade, Investment and Technology Wing, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Government of Bangladesh. But as I've mentioned, that I would also rely a lot on your deliberations. So with this, I would now first request Ms. Afreen Mahbub, Program Associate CPD, to make her presentation. So as short as possible, within 10 to 12 minutes. Okay.
Thank you, ma'am. Distinguished panelists, Honorable Ambassador, and dear guests, good morning to you all, and I welcome you to the Dhaka Roundtable discussion on Bangladesh-Nepal economic cooperation. Now, before we begin, I would like to walk you through a little bit about the outline of the agenda. So at first, I would like to cover a little bit about trade and investment scenario in Bangladesh, followed by the industrial value chain and Bangladesh and Nepal's participation into the value chain. And after that, I want to touch upon a little bit about the preferential trade agreement that is under negotiation between Bangladesh and Nepal, before concluding with some broad recommendation and talking a little bit about what we're trying to do in collaboration with Nepal Economic Forum. So Bangladesh and Nepal, they share a very long-standing friendly relationship, which is mostly grounded on mutual respect and historical support during Bangladesh's independence. In addition, we also share a lot of common geographical, cultural, and linguistic ties. However, despite having so many similarities, historically, trade between Nepal and Bangladesh has been very modest and limited. So in addition to that, Bangladesh and Nepal, they do collaborate in a lot of regional and international forums, such as SARC, BIMSTEC, BBN, and SASEC. In addition, Bangladesh and Nepal are also in engagement with different kinds of agreement in relation to trade and transit agreement. And currently, Bangladesh and Nepal are also under negotiation with reference to two key agreements. One is the preferential trade agreement, and the other is the bilateral investment promotion and protection agreement. So let's move on to talk about a little bit about the trade ties between Bangladesh and Nepal. So if we look at the total export and import trend between Bangladesh and Nepal, we can see that at least during the 1980s and the 2000s, Bangladesh's export to Nepal and Bangladesh's import from Nepal has been very limited and modest. However, export volumes did increase sharply and surpass $100 million by 2021, but it did fall drastically to about $40 million in 2024. Similarly, imports for Nepal, it peaked in 2008, accounting for $66.5 million. However, imports too had a very sharp decline, accounting for only about $6 million in 2024. Now, what does this identify? It reflects that despite some growth in trade, such a recent decline does raise concern about the long-term trade sustainability between Bangladesh and Nepal. So we also try to look at the top traded goods between Bangladesh and Nepal. So as of 2022, Bangladesh's top exports to Nepal included residues from the food industry, textile fibers, electrical machinery, vegetables, pharmaceuticals, fertilizers, cereals, and paper products. Conversely, Bangladesh's top imports from Nepal also included vegetables, electrical machinery, feather articles, agriculture, and food-related products as well. We also try to do a comparison between actual exports and potential exports. So for Nepal, there was significant untapped export potential with Bangladesh, particularly in products such as cardamom, palm oil, and various types of yarn. However, most of the top goods exported remains underexported or not exported at all. Comparatively, Bangladesh also has significant untapped export potential with Nepal for products like jute, cotton garments, and bicycles. But at the same time, exports of soybean, oil cakes, and fresh potatoes do exceed predicted values. Now let's talk a little bit about the barriers. So the biggest barrier that impedes trade between Bangladesh and Nepal are the tariffs or para-tariffs, also known as other duties and charges, which includes regulatory duty, supplementary duty, value-added tax, advanced income tax, advanced trade VAT. This increases the overall total tax incidence that Nepali exporters experience, and which is particularly evident for products such as large cardamom, where Bhutan enjoys duty-free access. However, Nepal faces significant tax incidence. Let's dive a little bit deeper into the MFN tariffs imposed on the top 10 Bangladeshi goods exported to Nepal, where we can see that MFN tariffs may range somewhere between 8% to as high as 24%, whereas the effectively applied tariffs ranges between somewhere from 5% to about 23%. Similarly, if we look at the MFN tariff imposed on top 10 Nepali goods exported to Bangladesh as of 2022, we can see that MFN tariffs, they range from anywhere between 1% to as high as 24%, whereas effectively applied tariffs can go as high as about 21%. Interestingly enough, Bangladesh imposes 82 non-tariff measures on products such as oilseeds that are being imported from Nepal, which is quite high. Now, let's talk a little bit about the investment scenario. So if we look at the FDI stock from Nepal and Bangladesh over the years, we can see that from at least 2005 to 2020, investment has been very limited from Nepal. However, there was a positive growth in 2021, where we saw a drastically increase in FDI, accounting for about $6.82 million, which quickly increased to $7 million in 2024, which is also the highest recorded FDI stock between 2005 and 2024. In addition to the investment scenario, I would also like to talk a little bit about how easy it is or how costly it is to do business in both Bangladesh and Nepal. So according to the Doing Business Indicators, which is a study done by World Bank, we assess that for Bangladesh, the time involved in trading across borders is significantly higher than that in Nepal. Comparatively, the time involved in dealing with construction is higher in Nepal than that in Bangladesh. Comparatively, when we look at the cost involved in doing business, we can see that the cost involved in getting electricity access is significantly higher in Bangladesh than it is in Nepal. So Before I move on to the industrial value chain, I would like to give a little bit of context of what a value chain is. So a value chain entails two streams, which includes the forward linkage and the backward linkage. Countries which are involved in backward linkage are involved in activities which concerns upstream, and they usually trade in products such as inputs or raw materials, and they cater mostly to suppliers. However, countries which are involved in the forward linkage stream are involved mostly in activities which caters to the customers, and they trade in finished products. So we also try to look at a little bit about Bangladesh's participation, both in terms of backward and forward linkages, and assess that Bangladesh showed a very low upstream integration with consistently higher forward than backward linkages, which reflects that Bangladesh mostly engages in downstream activities and trades in finished products. Conversely, Nepal is both integrated into the upstream and downstream segments of the global value chain. We also try to do a sector-wise analysis where we observe that Bangladesh adds significant value to Nepal's export in terms of products related to agriculture, petroleum, chemical, and non-metallic mineral products, in addition to electrical and machinery items. Conversely, Nepal also adds significant value to Bangladesh's export in relation to textile and wearing apparels, also in petroleum and chemical products, as well as food and beverages. So currently, Bangladesh and Nepal, they are under negotiation of establishing a preferential trade agreement. So let's see, why do we need a PT in the first place? So under the MFN and SAFTA terms, Bangladesh and Nepal, they do benefit from reduced tariffs. However, because of para-tariffs or other duties and charges, the total tax incidence ends up being very high at the end of the day. Now, to reduce such tariff barriers, PT is conducive because it will help to reduce these tariffs and improve market access, and also shift focus on product lists which are prioritized by both of these countries. So what are the tentative terms of PTA that are currently being negotiated? So from Nepal's side, Nepal has requested Bangladesh to reduce import taxes on 75 key products, which mainly relates to agricultural goods and textiles, and also accounts for 30% of its global average exports, which also faces a lot of high total tax incidence in Bangladesh. However, Bangladesh offered duty concessions only on 21% of these products, and most of these products are also already experienced low tariff items, and Bangladesh did not address the issue of ODCs either. Conversely, Bangladesh has also submitted a requested list where they requested lower tariffs on 31 of Nepal's products. However, most of these products are still taxed quite heavily in Nepal, which makes it very difficult for them to offer concessions to Bangladesh. However, the biggest barrier that exists between the preferential trade agreement between Bangladesh and Nepal is a clause that is stipulated in the Nepal-India Trade Treaty, which mandates that if Nepal offers any concession to any other country, it must also extend the same to India as well, which automatically means that any concessions provided to Bangladesh, the same concessions would have to be provided to India as well, which acts as a very discouraging factor from Nepal's perspective. Now let's look at a little bit of broad recommendations that we have organized based on the context provided. So in order to ensure a conducive trade environment, it is important to enhance regional trade and employment generation by leveraging geographic proximity and ensuring streamlined customs and admin procedures, while also establishing an ideal supply chain and fostering industrial diversification and specialization. However, it is very important to secure a PTA between Bangladesh and Nepal to reduce the tariffs, para-tariff barriers, as well as address the non-tariff measures as well. One way that this can be done is by drawing on Bhutan's experience in ensuring preferential access to the Bangladeshi market, and also both the countries need to engage proactively to facilitate trade and address the high non-tariff measures as well. Which brings me to this joint effort that has been fostered by Nepal Economic Forum and CPD, and why and how we're trying to foster a collaborative initiative between Nepal and Bangladesh. So just to provide a little bit context about the program has three key pillars, which includes strengthening bilateral ties by addressing the existing challenges and tapping into new opportunities, fostering stakeholder engagement by organizing roundtables involving stakeholders from government, business, academia, civil society, and the youth, while also promoting a sustainable collaboration by developing a long-term connectivity, a long-term framework for enhanced connectivity, tourism, and cultural exchange. Keeping these core pillars in mind, we have also identified some objectives which provides direction for the program as well, outlining key areas of intervention and also the results that we are trying to achieve. So this includes an analysis of the current situation between Nepal-Bangladesh relations in global and regional contexts, identify priority sectors, facilitate dialogues, and also provide sector-specific policy recommendation, strengthen institutional ties while deepening people-to-people connectivity, promote tourism between Bangladesh and Nepal, and also engage the youth in future collaboration. The program also aims to highlight and advocate the work of existing bilateral commissions, rejuvenate business forums, and also encourage investments in key sectors such as energy, tourism, and manufacture. Lastly, the program has been structured into 3 phases, which includes the first phase, which is the inception phase, and the goal was to set the foundation for the project itself through 2 roundtables, one in Kathmandu, which has already happened on 13th of June, and one in Dhaka. Next, this will be followed by phase 2, and the goal of phase 2 is to develop actionable strategies and partnerships with effective outcomes, including strengthen institutional and policy framework, enhance tourism and people-to-people connectivity, and finally phase 3, whose goal is to expand cooperation into future-oriented areas with an effective outcome to establish joint climate resilience projects, as well as mutual cushioning during the LDC graduation for both the countries. I would like to conclude my presentation and ask Aman to present his discussions. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Afrin, for this very succinct presentation. As you have seen that this presentation has explored the opportunities on trade, investment, and other areas of collaboration, and what is happening now, and particularly at the end, where the overview of the whole objective of this program and the areas of cooperation have been mentioned. I would like to request all our guests to focus on this, those objectives and the overall program overview. So those are the points which we would like to receive your comments on. Now I would like to request our Nepalese friend, Mr. Aman Pant. He is the Senior Fellow at Nepal Economic Forum, to make his presentations. You have 12 minutes, please.
Honorable Ambassador, esteemed guests, ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to you all. Today, I would like us to go on a run, a hypothetical run, of course. Let us imagine running approximately 21.097 kilometers. This distance is the official length of half a marathon. So, let us envision starting half a marathon from somewhere along the northwestern border of Bangladesh, perhaps around the Ronachandi Bazar area, and following a track further northwest in a perpendicular manner. At the finish line, we would end up in a town of Kakrapita in Nepal. The finish line will be the home to the Himalayas, including the mighty Kanchenjunga, which I hear is very vivid from northwestern Bangladesh along the Panchgarh 0-point corridor. At the finish line is also home to the momos. Momos, which I observe, are quickly becoming a go-to snack for a lot of young Bangladeshis around the country. This is also the place where crazy cricket fans roar for their country, wearing their hearts on their sleeves, just like here in Bangladesh. Every Bangladeshi cricket fan I talk to, they frantically recall the moment when Nepal almost knocked Bangladesh out of the T20 World Cup in 2014. This sense of mutual affinity and kinship is ever present all across our countries. Whenever I talk to young Bangladeshis, they share their dream of visiting Nepal and experiencing our piece of Shangri-La and tasting our momos. On the other side, Nepalese are absolutely mesmerized by the prospects of beautiful blue waters of St. Martin, the wonderful flavors of biryani in Bangladesh, and the mouth-watering taste of chicken from restaurants like Panchi, which is one of my personal favorite. This relationship has been underpinned by age-old sociocultural ties, and in the recent decades, it has been further supplemented by student exchanges and tourism exchanges. Today, it continues to flourish via exchanges and mutual respect on the webs of social media, and via singing, dancing, and humming along to each other's tunes in places like TikTok and Instagram. But despite this larger sense of affinity, larger sense of kinship, and the proximity of only half a marathon, in bilateral terms, Nepal-Bangladesh relation has not reached its potential. For a multitude of reasons, it has always felt like a story of so far, no matter how close. A case in point, I'd like to extract from the experience of the former EU ambassador, first to Nepal and then to Bangladesh. Her Excellency, when she moved to Nepal in 2013, from her home country in Belgium, her shipment from Brussels to Kathmandu took around approximately 2 months to arrive. A few years down the line, when she moved from Kathmandu to take over the role in Dhaka, her shipment from Kathmandu to Dhaka took approximately 4 months. Let that sink in. A shipment from Brussels to Kathmandu, which is across multiple oceans and probably thousands of miles away, took 2 months. And from Kathmandu to Dhaka, a country only half a marathon away, took double the time. I believe this little anecdote speaks volumes about how this proximity of only half a marathon has always felt like a bridge too far. Nepal and Bangladesh, as alluded to, don't trade enough. Much work needs to be done in terms of enhancing cross-country private sector engagement, and there seems to be a lack of synchronization on the understanding of bilateral policy frameworks. The recent power trade is a significant milestone, and it has created a lot of momentum. We here at CPD and NEF believe that this momentum should be tapped into. So, with the people of Nepal and Bangladesh at the core, and their future mutual well-beings at the heart, Bangladesh-Nepal, a renewed outlook. Yeah, we'll get it. Bangladesh-Nepal, a renewed outlook is an effort to unleash the potential of bilateral ties. Reflecting upon past engagements and subsequent hurdles, this effort will pivot the focus on the opportunities that lie in enhancing bilateral ties. The effort will not only redefine dynamics in Kathmandu and Dhaka, but will also provide a much-needed example of regional collaboration. Bangladesh, as seen from Nepal, is a story that oozes resilience. The country has been able to hold its own when many in and around it has stumbled during tough times. Nepalese take a lot of inspiration from this resilience, and we hope to collaborate on multiple fronts. Quickly on the international arena, there's a lot of common views Nepal and Bangladesh share, and they collaborate across multiple multilateral and bilateral platforms. They also face similar regional and global challenges, included climate change adaptation, disaster risk reduction, and graduating from LDC country next year. This provides a lot of ground for mutual collaboration and partnerships. As alluded to before, despite these commonalities, we trade below optimal levels. I'd like to highlight a figure from recent years, from the fiscal year 23-24, where Nepal's exports to Bangladesh saw a 19.3% decrease year on year, and Nepal's import from Bangladesh saw a whopping 36.58% decrease year on year. For the same year, Nepal's export share with Bangladesh was 0.3%, and import share 0.24%. At the heart of this is the high cost of trading for Nepal with Bangladesh. It is, in fact, cheaper for Nepal to trade with countries very far away, including US, UK, and Germany, compared to trading with Bangladesh. So for the backbone, for the basic structure of our bilateral ties, power trade, tourism, and education are the three sectors which provide the backbone of ties. As mentioned, Nepal and Bangladesh initiated a tripartite power trade agreement this past year, and we hope to build on that. In terms of tourism, Bangladesh is the fifth largest source of tourists for Nepal, with around 50,000 people coming in 2024, and these numbers are expected to grow average of 10 to 15% each year. In terms of education, 3,500 plus Nepali students are studying in Bangladesh, mostly in the medical field, and an equivalent number the other way around. Given the already existing people-to-people exchanges and the potential for so much more, a cross-border digital payment system is a very low-hanging fruit. There has been interest from private sector from both countries to facilitate these systems, and we're probably looking at very high numbers at a low cost here. Just to highlight a little bit on the program, so this is the second half of the inception phase, which is the Dhaka Roundtable. A similar discussion took place in Kathmandu a few weeks ago, and I'd like to share some insights from the participants during that discussion. At the core of our discussions in Kathmandu was the immense potential of bilateral ties, while there was also large acknowledgement on the limited progress that has been made and reflections upon them. At the heart was also the need to think ahead and think big. Prospects for massive latent demand down the line as our economics balloon were discussed. So Nepal and Bangladesh today combined go up to around an approximately $500 billion economy. We have to think down the line. In 20 years' time, both these economies are growing exponentially, and there's a lot of scope for collaboration with the ballooning size of the economies in mind. In terms of private sector engagement, there was a clear message from private sector stakeholders for the need of operational clarity and policy consistency. This will enable them to enhance already existing private sector cooperation and introduce new ones. In terms of operationalizing trade and mitigating procedure hurdles, the stakeholders highlighted the need to revisit cumbersome customs procedure and complicated certification requirements. As my colleague alluded to earlier, reducing the number of non-tariff barriers was also at the heart of conversations. Currently, in terms of Nepal's export to Bangladesh, there are 82 NTBs in existence. The participants also highlighted the need to digitize systems and introduce digital payments to increase trade volumes. They also discussed Nepal potentially accessing special economic zones and export processing zones in Bangladesh to increase prospects of trade and cut down on costs. Next, Nepal's prospects for utilization of Mongla port were also discussed. As we discussed right before this, only small volumes are traded via that port. Finally, overcoming final hurdles on the ongoing negotiations of the PTA was also highlighted as a major issue. The participants also discussed materializing the MVA motor vehicle agreement for the movement of people and cargo under the BBI and framework, which has been on paper for at least a few years. We need to get that Kathmandu-Dhaka bus service rolling as soon as possible. The private sector representatives also discussed the prospects of exploring introductions of letters of credit, LCs, in local currencies to bridge foreign exchange gaps and cut costs for both countries. In terms of the energy trade momentum, there's a big opportunity for Nepal to be a significant partner in providing for Bangladesh's growing energy needs. Bangladesh aims to source up to 40% of its energy via renewable sources in the short to medium term, and Nepal has to be an important partner in this aspect. Participants also discussed the idea of Bangladeshi garments potentially going green with the use of Nepal's hydropower. As we look forward to big numbers on energy trade, the partnership should be underpinned by mutual trust. perhaps provisions for reliable letters of credit, potentially backed by international or credible regional banks, will help the cause. In terms of tourism and people-to-people engagements, currently there are around 13 direct flights from Kathmandu to Dhaka, which equates to around 600 flights, which equates to a total annual air passenger capacity of 120,000 per year. Given the people-to-people exchanges that already take place and the prospects of it growing, this is severely inadequate. Tourism entrepreneurs again reiterated the need to materialize the MVA to supplement the air route. Finally, suggestions on introducing a joint tourism calendar to promote initiatives, as there are a lot of cultural synergy between our countries, was also highlighted. For this, there needs to be extensive collaboration between the tourism boards, which we have seen upticking in recent weeks and months. In terms of lessons learned on sustainable water use and management, Nepal and Bangladesh have a lot of commonalities in terms of their agro-dependency, their vulnerability to water-related disasters, and challenges of rapid urbanizations. There are a lot of lessons to be learned mutually on this front. The participants also highlighted the need to convene multi-stakeholder support, and there was keen interest from various multinational institutions to provide impetus to our collaboration under the South Asian Framework for Connectivity, Logistics, and Integration. So following this Kathmandu and Dhaka Roundtable, a joint proceeding report will be produced, which will lay the foundation and direction for the project's long term. As discussed by my colleague, then we move into phase 2 and phase 3, focusing on deepening engagement and emerging priorities. But all these efforts cannot be conducted in a silo. Hence, we at CPD and Nepal Economic Forum urge you all to contribute with your experience and expertise. Together, we can work on rewriting the trajectory of Nepal-Bangladesh ties. Let us start running this half a marathon that we envisioned earlier. After all, the best way to predict our bilateral ties is to create it together. Thank you very much, and I look forward to hearing from you all.
Thank you, Mr. Amar Pant, for your another insightful presentation with some concrete recommendations as well. Now, I would turn to our panelists who are here to share their insights and perspectives. So I would like to request all our distinguished panelists here to focus on specific recommendations. As you have seen that in the two presentations, they have discussed a little bit on what has happened in the previous roundtable. So we want to move forward from here. They are not only in terms of areas of collaboration, but how to concretize this effort, how to move forward to make it a fruitful journey towards implementation at the policy level. Now, I have 6 distinguished panelists, so I'll request each of them to speak for about 6 to 7 minutes, because we have rich audience also who would be sharing their views. First, I would like to request Mr. Ayush Podel. He is the Research Officer, South Asia Watch on Trade, Economics and Environment. Southie, Southie is a long-standing partner of CPD. In fact, we have Nepalese guests from Southie National Economic Forum and also from NDRI. So they're all here. So a few of them have arrived on Friday. I think your stay is comfortable. I would like to thank you once again to travel to Bangladesh to take part in this dialogue. So over to you, Mr. Podel. You have 7 minutes.
Thank you. So firstly, I would like to extend my sincere gratitude as well as congratulate the organizing team, both the CPD Center for Policy Dialogue as well as the Nepal Economic Forum for organizing this thoughtful event, as well as taking the initiative through which we can collaborate and further enhance Nepal-Bangladesh relationship in going one step forward. So I would also like to extend my warmest greetings to all the distinguished guest panelists, as well as Ambassador Sir, Mr. Ghanshyam Bhandari here. So I'll basically be talking on two major points. First, from the trade perspective, and second, the potential or the collaborations in which two countries can, work on for further enhancing the relationship. So coming to the trade part, most of the things has already been covered in the presentation itself. So I'll be just digging a little further. So based on our own study on Nepal-Bangladesh trade, which was recently published, what we found was that the tariff, as already described in the presentation also, the tariffs charged by the Bangladesh to the imports from Nepal are quite high. So based on our study and the potential products that we identified through that study, what we found was that the overall average customs duties charged to the Nepalese products were valued at around 16.6%, around 17%. That after taking into consideration the SAFTA concessions, it was reduced to around 9.6 to 10%. But however, if additional para tariffs, which the presenter also mentioned, after the additional para tariffs are considered, then that 9.6% tariffs would go all the way to 45 to 46%. So that's a big, big number. So also citing on the World Bank study of 2018, what it has mentioned that the simple average tariff in Bangladesh, that is the simple average tariff that in Bangladesh when importing goods goes all the way from 13.3% to 25% when accounting for para tariffs and other additional tariffs into the country. So I think tariffs are one of the biggest, one of the bottlenecks for enhancing exports from Nepal to Bangladesh. So apart from the tariffs, coming to other non-tariff barriers and bottlenecks that impacts trade. So other major issues are the advance payment. Advance payment from Bangladesh are not easily available to the Nepali exporters. So this has also impacted the trade in some way or the other. There are also issues with respect to transloading goods at the Indian customs at Fulbari, which adds additional cost and delay to the trade procedure. Also, there are some issues related to visa also. Business visa for Bangladesh is issued only from the Kathmandu city. So I believe that has also impacted the trade and the connecting factor between the two countries. Apart from these trade and non-tariff barriers, besides Nepal's export prospects are also constrained by the fact that for a few agricultural products like cardamom, Bhutan getting duty-free access due to a PTA signed by Bhutan and Bangladesh and which came into effect in 2022 has seriously impacted Nepal's export potential, which is cardamom. So coming to the potential and collaboration part, I believe Nepal, a PTA which satisfies or, a PTA that can consider factors of tariffs as well as para tariffs and could be negotiable for both countries could be taken forward. Also, in terms of energy collaborations, which is talk of the town lately, I believe Bangladesh energy, 40% of Bangladesh energy demands is going to be made by green and renewable energy by 2040. So I believe Nepal should leverage on these possibilities of supplying green energy and hydropower to Bangladesh. Further collaboration could include digital payment and infrastructure coordination, cross-border digital payment and infrastructure. So I think these are some of the points where Nepal and Bangladesh could look forward and further enhance on their relationship, expanding trade, cross-border digital connectivity, as well as the future of green trade. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Podal, for highlighting some of the important issues regarding PTA, the tariff, para-tariffs, and non-tariff barriers. And also, very important is the energy collaboration, where Bangladesh has an ambition to go renewable by 2040 to up to 40%, which is a very high target. But for that, we need collaboration, and Nepal is a very important potential source of renewable energy. And also you have highlighted the digital connectivity infrastructure, another important facilitator, or it could be barrier also. So, thank you once again. Now I would turn to Ms. Arya Awal, who is the project coordinator at Nepal Economic Forum. So you also have 7 minutes, please.
Thank you, Dr. Khatun. Good morning, everyone. It's a real pleasure to be here today. My name is Arya Wale, and I'm a project coordinator at Nepal Economic Forum. So far, the conversation has largely centered around trade. I'm going to pivot just a little bit. So, my academic background is in social psychology, with a research focus on intergroup relations, a topic I've been engaged with for some time now. Much of my work has centered on how different social and identity groups perceive, interact with, and relate to one another. One theory that has especially influenced my worldview and personal thinking and personal experience, which it is intergroup contact theory, which shows that meaningful, sustained contact between members of different groups can reduce prejudice, build empathy, and foster cooperation. So this is not just a theory that I've read about, it's also something that I've experienced in my personal life, like I alluded to earlier. So when I was a student at the University of Hong Kong, I got to interact with many people from South Asia, not just South Asia, from all around the world, but South Asian students in general. We tended to have a natural affinity to each other, and I made several Bangladeshi friends. What struck me most was our natural affinity, a kind of cultural familiarity that revealed itself in small everyday moments. We shared values, a sense of humor, a way of being in the world that was deeply familiar, even though we came from different countries. And this experience has stayed with me. It has made me think about how limited the opportunities actually are of Nepalis and Bangladeshis interacting with each other, and how powerful it can be when we do interact. So while today's discussion centers mostly around trade, investment, and connectivity, areas which have huge potential and are important to talk about, I also want to highlight the importance of people-to-people engagement, which is one of the core pillars of the project that we're trying to embark on. Because at the end of the day, strong bilateral relations depend on strong human relationships. That means we need more than economic agreements. We need student exchanges, joint academic and cultural programs, and spaces in which, both virtual and physical spaces, in which young people from our two countries can meet, collaborate, and learn from one another. These aren't just feel-good initiatives, they are strategic. They build trust, familiarity, and long-term partnership. As someone working at Nepal Economic Forum, I believe this kind of social connection is the glue that holds us together, and is the glue that binds everything that we're trying to build. Whether it's smoother trade or deeper regional integration, that is where I would like to end today. So I don't think it's super concrete like Dr. Khatun asked us to be, but I feel like this is an important area that we would want some suggestions to come from the other members of the roundtable as well. With that, I would like to end my remarks and pass it back to Dr. Khatun. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Arya. This is very important. You have turned into another area, which is people-to-people connectivity, which is an important pillar of improving the connectivity among countries. Thank you, and thank you for keeping your time so we can have more discussions later on. Now, I would like to request Mr. Fahim Ahmed, who is the Chief Executive Officer of Pathao Limited. Over to you, Fahim.
Thank you, Dr. Khatun, and thank you to the Nepal Economic Forum and CPD for organizing this very important dialogue. My previous colleagues have touched on very important issues around trade as well as cross-cultural collaboration. I'm going to focus on one additional important area, which is in investments. So Pathao, by way of background, as you know, is Bangladesh's largest digital services platform. We're also Nepal's largest digital services platform. In fact, we started our journey in Bangladesh about 10 years ago. We're coming on to our 10th anniversary this year in Bangladesh, but at the same time, we will be 7 years in Nepal just next month. And what we have found in Nepal is an amazing experience. I think in terms of consumer spending, there is a significant foundation there that is not apparent on the surface. Now, my colleagues and I, we often like to say that Nepal is a rich country that may not look so on the surface, and we have found this consumer spending was ready to be unlocked when we brought digital services. I think another couple of things that further emphasizes or further enhances this aspect is the global connectivity that Nepal has, especially its large diaspora of nearly 8 million people compared to 23, 24 million population that is living inside of Nepal. Tourism, the significant tourism internationally also strengthens this connectivity. So why then has investment into Nepal been far lower than its very significant potential? And I think it's important to kind of highlight some of those issues here and also share our experiences in this regard. There are significant barriers to entry when it comes to establishing companies with foreign ownership. I saw in one of the slides that had 23 or 24 days to set up businesses in Nepal. I can assure you that it took us a lot longer than that. It took us 6 months, and that too, we were able to do it in a fast-track manner. In fact, the category in which we operate, digital services or ride-hailing, transportation, etc., didn't even exist, back when we set up our operations in Nepal. And importantly, what we have also found is there are meaningful ad hoc post-facto changes that comes about. There are significant investment restrictions, both of which derive from an inherent overly protectionist nature of doing business in Nepal. In fact, my dear friend, Mr. Sujeev Shakya, talks about it in a chapter called Cartelpreneur in his second book, Unleashing the Vajra. And I'm looking forward to your third one coming up, hopefully, imminently. It is in fact, so I'll give you one example. We started our operations September of 2018 and became the largest ride-hailing company in Nepal, while in fact growing the industries along with our competition. And very recently, about 18 months or so ago, the FITA Act was amended to include a provision that requires a minimum participation by local shareholders of 30%. So these kinds of post-facto changes, it severely impact the outlook for foreign investment into the country. There are, additionally other areas that could, do very well within our broader domain, especially in fintech, where there are restriction on foreign ownership. For example, I believe it's a 15% restriction on owning a payment service provider license. So these factors can significantly curtail the growth of the digital services sector. I must also point out some positive developments in recent months in Nepal. that can unlock cross-border investment opportunities. The overseas investment policy now paves the way for foreign investment by Nepali companies as well as by Nepali individuals. It allows sweat equity for Nepali professionals and foreign employee share schemes. So this is a very important positive development that can help the growth of technology sector in Nepal. And we've also seen very similar changes that have been put forward by the Central Bank, Bangladesh Bank over here that allows that. So this brings us to opportunities and specific recommendations. I think there are significant areas of collaboration on the technology sector. I think in order for us to scale up and also mitigate any business continuity risk, we can greatly benefit from collaborations in the IT business process outsourcing exports. In fact, this time last year, when we were in Bangladesh experiencing an internet shutdown, many of us, including our company at Pata, flew out some of our engineers to Kathmandu so they could continue our operations and so we could continue to serve our operations in Nepal. I think one of the colleagues also brought up the opportunity for Nepali investment in special economic zones. So I think I would make three specific recommendations: collaborate, to reduce investment restrictions for Bangladeshi companies operating in Nepal. I think these types of dialogues can help further our agenda, and the great work done by policy think tanks such as the Nepal Economic Forum as well as CPD can help us support these recommendations. We can also explore opportunities in the technology sector. I'm pleased to report that some of my former colleagues, in fact, Patao alumni, have also set up their own offices in Kathmandu, building upon their existing presence in Bangladesh. So I hope that we will continue to do that, and we'll do it in both directions. The changes in the overseas investment policy now unlocks an opportunity for Nepali companies to also operate in Bangladesh. And then finally, to explore investment opportunities and operations by dint of the overseas investment policy in Bangladesh. I think these are some of the specific areas we can look forward to as we look towards building stronger economic ties between Bangladesh and Nepal. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Fahim Ahmed, for your practical experiences and also some very important recommendations which have emanated from your experience in working in Nepal or investing in Nepal. And as you have noticed from Fahim's discussion that some of the challenges are very similar to Bangladesh's with regard to foreign investment or starting a business or any fintech business or in any other businesses. And thank you for your concrete recommendations, which are very useful for the policymakers of both the countries. Now, I would like to request Mr. Sudeep Bhaju. He is the private sector specialist at Bead Management Private Limited. Over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Fatou. Your Excellencies, Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, colleagues and friends, Namaste and good morning. It's a great feeling to be in Dhaka at this roundtable and to see this initiative take off. The Kathmandu Dialogue, which was the symbolic kickoff, has generated so much interest in the bilateral relationships. The opportunities for Nepal and Bangladesh span across economic, infrastructure, and social dimensions, and both can benefit by leveraging their complementary economies and regional alignments. The Kathmandu Dialogue brought forward the opportunities and challenges that we saw in the earlier presentations put forward by the private sector actors, and there was a great demand for urgency from both Nepal and Bangladesh to collaborate to build deeper, sustainable bilateral ties. I think a lot of the areas that have been echoed earlier are areas that do stand as great opportunities for Nepal. And I think a big hurdle on this is the cost of doing the trade. High cost of doing trade between two countries is eroding the competitiveness and economic opportunities. Despite our close proximity, our trade volumes remain low and is plunging. There is clear mutual potential for Nepalese agro products like mentioned earlier, lentils, cardamom, ginger, and for Bangladeshi textiles and pharmaceuticals. But again, we are not trading at margins, not at scale. We did touch upon the NTPs and our agreement with India, but I think there are always ways to maneuver those, and how do we begin is the question today. Power, we've recently seen a symbolic movement in the energy cooperation in Nepal's goal to export 5,000 megawatts of hydroelectricity that aligns with Bangladesh's ambition and transitions its RMD sector to cleaner, greener practices and less reliance on fossil fuels is another promising area for this collaboration that has already started. Like mentioned earlier, I think people-to-people collaboration is going to be the key. It's not just sitting in the rooms. It's about trying to collaborate and cooperate. From tourism to education to business and culture, our people can already connect in powerful ways. Whether it's Pran operating in Nepal, despite all the challenges that we spoke, hearing from Pathau right now, and also other IT sector companies that have been working in Nepal. Over 3,000 Nepalese students study in Bangladesh, and Bangladesh tourists, as mentioned earlier, are seen as a key target segment, yes, especially the youth, and with the significant number of flights that are there, they are huge potentials. But again, we are not tapping into that potentials with 6 to 7 million Bangladeshis who travel abroad, and a similar number of Nepalese traveling abroad are not seeing our own neighborhood as destinations. Our challenge now is to simplify this movement, reduce the cost, and build experiences, but not just exchanges. Looking forward to have these open conversations today, honest reflections and practical suggestions to explore what can work and not dwell on what's not working or what's stopping us. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sudeep Bhaju, for your points. And you have once again highlighted the issue of high cost of doing business, which is hurting the business potential. And also a very important point is that scaling up of business, for sustainability of business, scaling up is very important. And to scale up, all these barriers have to be removed. Now, we have Professor Mustafizur Rahman, who is the Distinguished Fellow at CPD. So I would like to request Professor Rahman to make his remarks. As you know, that he has worked on trade issues for several years and has been crucial in recommending many trade issues which are very important for not only for Bangladesh but also improving the regional trade and also at the global level. Over to you, Professor Mustafa.
Thank you, Dr. Famida, for that generous introduction. Excellency Ambassador Bandari, dear guests, I think this is a very important initiative on the part of Nepal Economic Forum in collaboration with our center. Our founding chairman, Professor Rahman Suhan, would have been very happy if he was here today. He is not in Bangladesh at the moment. He has been arguing for regional and sub-regional and bilateral collaboration for many years. In 1999, his seminal book's title was Rediscovering the Southern Silk Route. So from that perspective, obviously, this is a very important initiative that our center and the Nepal Economic Forum have taken. I would like to recall that both of our countries will be graduating on 24th of November 2026. And graduation will bring its own disciplines. So many of the non-tariff barriers, and Afrin and Mr. Pant and others have also pointed out to these, which provide various obstacles to deepening of our relationships. We will have to do away with these as we graduate from the group of LDCs. Many of these para-tariffs and non-tariff barriers will have to be removed as part of our obligations under the WTO. So I think this is also a very opportune moment to deepen our relationship. So it's just not on bilateral basis, it's multilateral obligations as well. So we'll have to keep that in mind. So this is number one. Number two is that, yes, Mr. Pant has very graphically mentioned about the time that it takes, and I recall the book by Dr. Sanjay Kathuria, The Glass Half Full, and he mentions that exporting from Dhaka to Kathmandu is 1.5 times costlier than exporting from Dhaka to Sao Paulo. So that's the state that we are in. And if the costs are higher, we lose competitiveness. And then obviously trade doesn't happen. So how do we triangulate transport connectivity, investment connectivity, and trade connectivity through the new forms of other connectivities? People-to-people connectivity is obviously there, but also energy connectivity is also very important. So I think that these are new opportunities which are there that we will have to seize upon. And with regard to relationship with Nepal, I think that I'm not very hopeful about PTA because we know what are the constraints of a PTA. We have one PTA with Bhutan. What we should aim at is comprehensive economic partnership, which includes not only trade in goods, some concessions, with a long list of sensitive products, but really a comprehensive economic partnership that engulfs not only trade in goods, but also removal of all types of NTMs and also investment cooperation. And I'm happy that there will be also a bilateral investment cooperation here. But what we haven't mentioned, I think, is that the relationship with India is very critical in terms of advancing the bilateral relationship between Bangladesh and Nepal. We are talking about this import of 40 megawatt of electricity to Bangladesh. How is it being done? Can we build transmission lines from Nepal to Bangladesh and then trade in an economical way? It's not possible. You have to use the Indian grid. You put the energy in the Indian grid on that side and you get it from the eastern grid, isn't it? That's the way that it has to be done. So I think that the bilateral relationship will need triangulation through Indian cooperation as well. And we have seen that, for example, when India put a ban on transshipment to third countries through India, sometime back scrapping the 2020 agreement with Bangladesh, the protocol with regard to Nepal and Bhutan has been kept open, which is good. I think we should look into the opportunities of how we can take advantage of the transit and the freight in transit through India, because otherwise I don't think that we can fully utilize our potential. The issue of BBIN motor vehicle agreement was mentioned. And we agreed that if Bhutan has a problem, it will be Bangladesh, India, and Nepal motor vehicle agreement. These are the ways that you really translate your comparative advantages into competitive advantage, through rail freight, through road transport, through transit, freight in transit. So all these will require, I think, not only a comprehensive partnership bilaterally, but also looking at it with support from the Indian side. If we need to invest, for example, the number of 9,000 megawatt was mentioned as importing from Nepal, import of energy from Nepal. It will need a lot of investment. And it will not be possible for Nepal to make all those investments. Bangladesh will have to go there. India will have to go there. So I think that if we really want to realize the potentials, then the factor of India will have to be put into the equation. Otherwise, I don't think that we can fully utilize our potentials. On the other hand, there are also ways in which bilaterally we can do. For example, the single window, digitalization and the paperless trade. So these are the ways that you reduce your cost of doing business. Mutual recognition agreement for the standards and certification. That's the way to go. So I think that there are ways in which we can bilaterally deepen. But what I was mentioning is that if the full potential of not only trade, but also investment and also energy trade will have to be realized, we will have to also bring India into the equation. And lastly, I would like to mention that, you see, at the very beginning, already mentioned about Trump tariff and the global trading regime turning topsy-turvy. I think that Nepal and Bangladesh, we both have common interest in terms of deepening multilateral trading system. I think that we should coordinate our stance in global fora, like the LDC fora, like in the WTO. I think this is becoming very important in view of what we are seeing because of Mr. Trump's various efforts to undermine and weaken the multilateral trading system. So I envisage that there will be a backlash. Still, 70% of the global trade is being carried out outside of U.S. bilateral relationship. So the multilateral trading system will have to make a stand. And there, I think in these type of global fora, Nepal and Bangladesh also can have common stance and stand, which will also be necessary as we go forward. The world is changing very fast. Regional and sub-regional cooperation will become very important for our export diversification and market diversification. Bangladesh exports only 12% of its $52 billion of export to South Asia, Southeast Asia, and ASEAN and RCEP. So how do you really go for market diversification and export diversification? By deepening collaboration with your neighboring countries. And it has to be obviously SAFTA plus, okay? We do have our own preferential treatment under SAFTA, but if we want to go for deeper cooperation with Nepal, it has to be SAFTA plus, it has to be PTA plus. And that's where I think our focus should be, and some of the ideas that have come, and Pathawi is a very good example. I think, as I was mentioning, we will have to triangulate our transport connectivity, our investment connectivity, and our trade connectivity. And only through that, we can really withstand the pressures that are emerging and reap the benefits, potential benefits of closer cooperation with neighboring countries. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Mustafizur Rahman, for laying out a very good landscape of how to move forward with regional cooperation and improving the trade landscape of each of these countries, and particularly in the context of weaker multilateral trading system or weaker global trading regime. And also, you rightly pointed out the issue of LDC graduation, where Bangladesh and Nepal are on the same plane, because both these countries are graduating, and particularly at a time when the global trade regime is going to such disruptions. And thank you for making some very important recommendations and bringing into the picture the issue of regional collaboration, because though we talk about bilateral collaboration, but then regional collaboration is important, and in this case, the particular example of the issue of India. So when we talk about energy connectivity or energy trade with Nepal, we cannot do without involving India. So it is very important to look at issues from the regional perspective as well. Now we have, as a panelist, we have the last but not the least one, Dr. Shikha Thapa Magar, Executive Director of NDRI. NDRI is Nepal Development Research Institute. So over to you for your comments, Dr. Shikha.
Thank you, Dr. Fatima, and thank you for organizing this roundtable dialogue between Bangladesh and Nepal relation to CPD and also to Nepal Economic Forum. His Excellency, distinguished guest, and our colleagues. So I'm very happy to be present here and present NDRI to put some of the recommendation on the three thematic areas, which are the strengthening on the trade policy and also enhancing the people-to-people through tourism. So I think previously our two keynote presenters, they have already very beautifully presented what is lacking, what are the gaps, and way ahead. And along with our fellow panelists, they have also covered most of the topic. So I would also like to add in that, but also I would like to focus on the climate change cooperation, think tank collaboration, and also student exchanges between Bangladesh and Nepal. So talking on the trade, as I think hydropower trade has been a highlight. So I think we have already begun exporting 40 megawatt of electricity to Bangladesh for 6 months from June to November. And there is also discussion going on, like the potential buyer of 900 megawatt Upper Karnali hydropower project by Bangladesh. And also Bangladesh showing interest in financing reservoir-based project like Sunkosi 3. So I think this is the strategic importance on behalf of Nepal, is that how we can monetize from this vast hydropower potential, and for Bangladesh, diversifying of energy mix, reducing dependence on fossil fuel and meeting climate targets. So for this, the future pathway could be the regional energy grid connecting between Nepal, Bangladesh, and India. And also there should be a green energy diplomacy to promote clean energy trade in South Asia. So likewise, in case of trade in niche products, so I want to highlight the cardamom. So it is the highest, it has the high value product in Nepal, and most of it, 99.9%, it is exported in India. So I think the tariff that is on this cardamom product is about 35% or more, highlighted by different reports in Bangladesh. I think if this duties, if there is this cardamom export to Bangladesh market could be reduced by the reduce in the tariff, it would really help to improve the value chain of cardamom. And also talking about the tourism collaboration, I think that has been also mentioned that Nepal offers adventure tourism of trekking, mountaineering, and paragliding, while the Bangladesh offer coastal tourism of Cox's Bazar, St. Martin Island. So I think there is opportunity for joint tourism circuit. And also I think cross-border travel packages and simplified visa processes could also help in this tourism collaboration. And I like highlighting on the climate change cooperation. So I think we already know that Bangladesh has been vocal to advocate for climate justice, loss and damage, adaptation financing, and also is a lead for climate think tanks and policy institute. So Nepal can contribute in mountain ecosystem, likewise glacial water resources, and also experience in community-based adaptation and disaster risk reduction. So I think for this joint action, unified position in COP summit and international climate negotiation would be very offering, and also collaborative research on climate impact in Himalayan and Delta region. And also regional climate resilience program and funding mechanism also help with the climate change collaboration. And talking about the think tank collaboration, as I think most of us are here representing think tank from Nepal as well as CPD itself. So cross-learning potential through exchange of policy research, development models, governance, innovation, joint studies on regional integration, migration, and sustainable development. So there could be annual policy dialogue and conference, joint publication, policy brief, youth fellowship, research exchange program among the think tanks, which could help to build the strength of the think tank within the region. And going to the perspective of student exchange, I think we already know that many Nepali students come to Bangladesh for pursuing engineering and medicine. I think we can have the diversification into other academic fields like climate change, environmental science, and tourism, hospitality, and agriculture science. So I think this bilateral scholarship program funded by both countries will help to provide a joint degree program, credit transfer system between the university, and also there will be also, it will benefit, as we are also talking about people-to-people enhancing through tourism. I think this will be also another perspective for strengthening to people-to-people ties and mutual respect, and also build a knowledge bridge between mountain and delta region. So I think I would like to highlight this part from my perspective. So thank you again.
Thank you, Dr. Shikha, for your comments. I think you have highlighted some very important points, particularly in the context of Bangladesh, which is very important because Bangladesh is a vulnerable country to the impact of climate change, and so is Nepal. It has also challenges, and where we can do collaboration through research and also other ways. For example, you've mentioned about the issues, particular issues like climate justice, loss and damage, and also resilience-related issues. One important area you have mentioned about education. I think health is also another area where we have comparative advantage. We can also work together on this. We remember there was this South Asia agreement on health services. So we don't know what happened to that. I think it is as the fate of other agreements, this is also stalled, but we worked with the South Asian think tanks, including Nepal. We prepared country case studies where countries can collaborate on health areas. So that is another important area. I think we have covered almost all aspects of the collaboration through the discussions of the panelists. Now I would like to open the floor for your inputs on these areas and concrete recommendations. So please identify yourself and then make your comments and remarks. Yes, Ambassador Tariq Karim.
Thank you, Chair, for giving me the floor. I sought it early because I have to leave early also, so I wanted to make a few comments. As I see it, I'm not an economist or an expert in economics, so I'm not going to deal with the technicalities. I think I agree with all the points that have been raised and the suggestions made. But I understand a little bit of where economics comes to clash with politics. And that is where actually our problem is. Of these different sectors, for me, the most important sectors to build upon, I mean, we have started the people-to-people. That's been done because the visa regimes have been relaxed on both sides. It's very easy for a Bangladeshi with an ordinary passport to get a visa and go across. So that will continue increasing. Once you've opened that gate will continue expanding, the flood will keep. So I'm not too concerned about that unless political hiccups come. The three core areas where I think where our future is tied together, but we cannot still come and meet, are energy, water, and trade. Trade depends on connectivity, and the logistical concerns have been expressed, that this is not there, this is not there, this is not there. But if one of those logistical lines, lifelines are started, that itself will attract investments and initiatives for other concerns to be met. As long as the gap is there, nobody is going to come forward to move it, because moving something anew is not easy for people to go and start investing it. They'd rather put the money in where the income and the profits are already coming in. We have got used to the bilateral mode of two to tango. And as my good friend, Professor Mustafizur Rahman pointed out, actually we have to learn how three can tango. The steps have not been configured. Without the third party being able to tango in unison with the other two who want to come, we keep getting derailed. The PTA is not moving just for one reason, as I see it, that Nepal and India first have to, Nepal has to give the same concessions to India as it will give to Bangladesh. And so everything comes to a stop. And that affects even when we are discussing other matters outside, I suspect, outside the PTA framework. I completely agree with Professor Mustafizur Rahman that the approach has to be, we have to approach things. We cannot ignore that there are third parties who are there in between, whom we have to co-opt into this. The potentials are vast. Why 9,000 megawatts? I had dreamt of 14,000 megawatts about 15 years ago. Okay. We have just, after exactly 11 years or 10 years, we agreed to how 40 megawatts will move, and fortunately within 1 year 40 megawatts are moving. But it's still a long way to 9,000 megawatts. We have to strengthen the grid which will carry it through. Who's going to pay for the grid? We have to agree on that. And as Professor Rahman mentioned, I have always been an advocate that we have to think multilaterally in this. Think trilaterally, maybe a joint stock company or joint investments by the three countries, but I had also in mind Bhutan, because between Bhutan, Northeast India, and Nepal, there is enough hydropower to feed not only the whole sub-region, but beyond, to export it elsewhere. If only we could cooperate. It would make the leap, the transition from hydrocarbons to hydropower so much easier. International agencies are here. Other international agencies should be invited. Maybe they can be co-partners, because part of the problem in the hydropower trade and Nepal's own potentials of going forward is where is the money coming into the trade. And the minute the money comes from a certain source, the trade stops. So you have to figure your way around it. Water is being weaponized. And although Nepal is an upper riparian country, upper riparian country doesn't necessarily always have the advantage it thinks it has, because when lower riparians take defensive measure, it hits back the upper riparian. And therefore, if Nepal, we actually come back to the stage where once we were proposing storage dams in Nepal for augmenting the water of the Ganges. Now that Nepal is embarking on use of waters for hydroelectricity and for navigation, that is something which becomes viable. It will perhaps lessen the tension existing between, we are going to have a major problem next year when the Ganges Treaty runs out. And the Ganges Treaty was predicated on a certain availability of a certain quantity of water being present. That water is not there, which will mean that there will be more frictions and maybe, who knows, beyond friction. And the third area, the trade, as I mentioned, I mean, we need to get into the regional framework. Now, the framework is there. The BBIN is there, but it's an intergovernmental agency agreement. It's not an institutional agreement. And it was, admittedly, it was an initiative taken under SARC, and it actually got, the first agreement got signed after the collapse of the SARC summit, or the non-failure to advance SARC beyond the 2014 summit. That is, in 2015, the BBIN MVA was signed. I have been, and I will once again reiterate, that perhaps you move the BBIN dialogue or interlocution into the BIMSTEC, because all the BBIN members are part of BIMSTEC. Make every BIMSTEC meeting have a caucus of the BBIN, how to move it forward, because I think one of the mental blocks that one of the partners in BBIN has, that it's a SARC initiative. And SARC, for the moment, at least for the foreseeable future, to be realistic, I don't see it going anywhere until that impediment is removed. So these are some of the suggestions I thought, and I commend this initiative that Nepal Economic Forum is taken with CPD. I would suggest that perhaps you should have, when you're discussing the future plans, think of forming caucus meetings. Draw in a similar think tank from India, draw in a similar think tank from Bhutan, have a caucus of BBIN before or during the BIMSTEC meeting, before UN meetings, before international regional meetings, so that at the track 1.5 or 2 levels, you will supplement and complement what is happening at the 1, give ideas and feed that in. That needs to be done, because it's not going to be done at the track 1 level. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Tariq Karim, for the concrete recommendations and also highlighting some of the ongoing challenges of regional cooperation when it comes to bilateral relationship, but the challenges are regional in nature. Okay, yes, please. Dr. Saira, yes.
Thank you, Chair. It's not a suggestion. I would like to make some of my observation, because I was the central banker last month. Today I joined CPD, but as a central banker, I was the SARC finance coordinator. So I want to share my experience. In 2010, I visited Nepal. At that time, with my daughter, to attend the international seminar on economic and finance. That time I watched that load shedding was so tough. There's like 7 or 8 times current when gone, and then we have to shift our hotel to. But today we are talking about like importing energy from Nepal. So it's, I think, great achievement from Nepal that they are overcome this situation from load shedding to exporting energy. So I appreciate them for doing this. And before the 2015 earthquake, Nepal was, GDP was growing, I think, like South Korea. Then the shock came in 2015. Now they are now getting back, and maybe it's at par like Bangladesh, they are doing good. Okay, but what I want to mention that when I was coordinator SARC Finance, we did several studies like cross-border barriers and the digital payment systems, but none of the recommendations actually, nobody cares about this recommendation. So I'm worried that maybe this kind of dialogue will end up with only in the recommendation, no practical steps will be taken out of this kind of, I don't want to see these kind of things at this stage. So I like to thank Nepal Economic Forum and CPD for arranging this outstanding, and this is, today is my first day I'm joining, starting from CPD, so this is rare opportunity for me to, and also the presenters, and they did a very good job, and the panelists, very constructive ideas we got from there, and thank you for giving me the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Saira Yunus, for your concern. The implementation challenge is an issue. I'll come back this side. I will, yes, Professor Lailufar, and then I'll come back this side again. Professor Lailufar, Professor of International Relations at Dhaka University.
Thank you for the introduction. This is an immensely sort of effective understanding that what are the areas that Bangladesh and Nepal can work. But I must have to say that coming from international relations background, I see that how it is politics that is the driving force, as has been spoken by Ambassador Tariq Karim sir, and as well as if we do not have political will to improve relationship, nothing happens. Not only that, another elephant in the room was mentioned by Dr. Mustafi sir, that it is not only regional in nature, but in South Asia, bilateral relationships are contingent upon the largest neighbor that we have because of the unique geographical positioning of this region. Nowhere in the world we see one country dominating and sharing border with almost all the other neighbors. So this is something we have to take into account. So without India involving in this sort of process of discussion, dialogue, we cannot see any practical sort of changes. Some of the areas that I thought that it's probably not so much economic in nature, but we can work on, because South Asia is one of the regions which involves a lot of mistrust and distrust among its neighbors. So how can we remove this so that we can build some cooperative framework? We spoke of about 3,500 Nepalese students studying here. But it's not only a number. What are the disciplines that they're studying, where Bangladesh can harness and provide more opportunities so that we can have more Nepalese students? And for this, on this issue, you might have noticed a news report a couple of days back that not only Nepalese students, but now Indian students are also increasingly choosing Bangladesh because many doors for them are being shut down. So we need to see that how Bangladesh can sort of take advantage of this particular global situation for the regional, for its neighboring countries. Then again, we often do not want to talk about low-hanging fruits, but I remember being a child in 1980s, how movies used to be made when SARC started to take off. So there can be cultural exchange, cultural collaboration. We can again go back to those days of, either movie making or documentaries or different sort of cultural exchange programs. And then again, when we are talking about students coming to Bangladesh to study, we are talking about only tertiary level of students. How can we involve school level students to visit each other and to learn about each other's culture? And these kind of exchange programs are taking between Bangladesh, India, Bangladesh, China, Bangladesh, America. So this is one of the other example that from the school level, how can you make people to know about each other, to learn about each other? Then again, another area, I thought that we could have a successful collaboration which may not have direct economic impact, that disaster management area. This is an area where we can learn from Nepal. We can also sort of collaborate with each other. I remember back in mid-90s when it was Bangladesh Navy which used to go to Nepal whenever there would be an accident in the river areas. So a lot has happened since then, and if we can create collaborations. And then one other area, defense cooperation, we have a robust defense cooperation, but in the area of UN peacekeeping. I know Nepal sends now the largest female peacekeepers. So this is another area that Bangladesh and Nepal can actually collaborate and actually sort of build more sort of knowledge-based relationship. We have a lot of similar kind of cultural barriers for women to participate in UN peacekeeping missions. Whether we can sort of bring in more or carry out more studies. Nepal has its national action plan on WPS before Bangladesh launched its own NAP. So can we sort of work in these areas, collaborate on these areas? So the task is not only to have a trade barrier removed, and because those are more technical issues. Me not coming from economic area, I cannot comment on that. But there are many other areas where we can jointly work together. This may not bring like billions of dollars for both of us, but this can actually create more scope for working together, because in the areas of UN peacekeeping, already South Asia is experiencing a challenge. Can we sort of join hands and create more demands for Bangladeshis and Nepalese in these areas? And I'll end by saying that the general the sort of issue facing all South Asian countries is that we do not have much comparative advantage over the other. We have similar kind of products that we want to sell, and in the end we end up competing against each other in the areas of labor market or in the areas of garments and other areas. So how can, even within those sort of particular areas, we can create win-win situation for the both of us? Thank you.
Thank you for those remarks, Professor Lalifar. You wanted to? Yes, then you'll come. Can you please identify yourself? Yeah. We know.
Thank you very much. My name is Vivek Kandel. I'm currently a fellow at the Asia Global Institute, University of Hong Kong, and a senior fellow at Nepal Economic Forum. This is quite a humbling experience. I mean, like, this is my first time in Bangladesh, and to start something with this kind of forum, it's really very quite humbling. When we talk about how close we are, like just half a marathon away, and how distant we are in terms of overcoming a lot of the challenges that has been discussed, I was thinking that where are the other areas where the distance may not be so much of an issue? I had the opportunity to work in some economies in Asia and Africa. Just two things is like, I work in the energy and the climate space. Bangladesh is one of the most referred climate story. Bangladesh ran the largest rural electrification program in the world. Nepal has one of the highest number of mini grids that are connected for the rural electrification in the world. And right now, at the moment, there is this Mission 300 initiative that is happening in sub-Saharan Africa, where a lot of institutions are actually participating, from the multilaterals to think tanks, governments, and even the institutions like this Solar Alliance, for example, that's in India. So two countries that has done exemplary work in rural electrification, one with the highest number of the largest electrification program, another with the highest number of mini grids. And I have met a lot of colleagues from BRAC, Grameen, and the ITCOL working in the African energy space, but mostly participating through the competitive bids. That's a $90 billion investment scale if you look at this Mission 300 initiative, which is trying to overcome, at least like connect around 300 million Africans in the grid. So I think, most of the time we talk about where we can collaborate. There are so many think tanks that are helping shape the initiative, and these two largest, exemplary initiative, and we are participating in tenders. Sujib sometime, submits his bids. I have a lot of colleagues at the ITCOL. So I think these are the areas where we are really missing in terms of, I know that there are a lot of stories where we can come together, raise the voice, whether it's about the loss and damage or like many other areas. But at the same time, we are missing out, where the irony is that this connectivity or this 21 kilometer is not an issue, where we can really come together and be part of the entire, that's all the initiatives that are happening. So I just wanted to share this, that there are also areas, given that we have done exemplary work and where we have missed collaborating around. Thank you.
Okay, please, yes. I'll come back now after this.
Thank you very much, Dr. Khatun. I'm Uwais Pare. I'm the senior economist in UNDP. I'll try to be very brief. I think everything important has already been said. I'm not so sure I'll be able to add much value. I think in many countries, developing and developed, there's often that disconnect between stated policies and practices. Many countries claim to be open economies, but the practices may show something entirely different. Now, I understand that, and we heard about politics, the role it can play. But politics itself is also shaped by ideas and economic ideas. And I remember several years back, I was in a conversation or in a seminar with Jagdish Bhagwati. He's a free trade advocate. And he was asked this question, and we are experiencing it now, that retreat from globalization, people inward looking. And he said, at that time, he said, it's not going to happen. We are on a path. We're going to continue moving forward because the ideas, the economic ideas that underpin global trade are strong. Although we are seeing some we are seeing some effects, but hopefully these will be short-term and we'll continue to move forward. Because after all, I think many economists generally disagree on almost everything, but on trade, I think there's a general agreement that trade is good. But of course, global trade means also borders, and that brings the political angle to it. And I think this is a message for fellow economists as well. We need to do a better job of conveying the economic benefits of trade, and I think this forum is very important, so that the politicians understand it, and then the stated policies do translate into concrete actions. And I've already seen a list of things that could be addressed, and these are technical problems. Seems like they can be addressed. It shouldn't be that difficult, but yes, the politics has to move. But the politics can move with ideas. Sometimes if the ideas are not embraced, it's the circumstances that can affect politics. And Dr. Rahman, he talked about LDC graduation. So it's going to happen, whether it happens next year, if it happens 2 years, but we know there's a date it's going to happen. And that means both countries have to change. And they have to think about an outward orientation. And that will lead to reform. And I think this is a good and opportune time for us to take stock and see the benefits, and then see what is possible to do, because change in a way has already been, in a way, there's a predetermined, where we have a graduation coming up, we know what the implications are, so we can move forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you for this important comment and interlinking politics and economics. I'll just move this side, then I'll come back again. Please make your points.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. My name is Shamim Ahmed. I'm a former ambassador. Much of what I wanted to say has been very eloquently expressed by Ambassador Tariq Karim. Well, let me bring up the India factor here. Yes, when we discuss about Bangladesh-Nepal commercial relations, potential of economic cooperations, I think we have to very openly discuss what kind of the India factor here. Because if we don't discuss that important aspect, it would be like refraining from addressing the elephant in the room, or trying to make a big omelette without breaking the egg or eggs. And I'm quite surprised that till Dr. Mustafiz took the floor, there wasn't any mention of this unavoidable factor, particularly from our Nepalese friends. And that's as much as I wanted to say about this India thing. And as regard the potential for cooperation, I would like to know from one of the Nepalese friends here if there would be a segment on responding to the queries that are made from around the table. What do you think about the potentials of energy cooperation, particularly supply of electricity from Nepal? and how it could be improved further. I know presently the quantum is very, very insignificant. And I have particularly noted what Dr. Landulford just said about the cooperation in the field of UN peacekeeping, because both India and, both Nepal and Bangladesh, they're major troop contributors. I think both troops and also civilian police contingents. And as regards, I have an idea about the future cooperation, that is, there could be some cooperation between the two airlines. I mean, they can operate beyond each other's capitals on code-sharing basis. I'm not aware of Nepal Airlines expands the international network, but this is an area that could be looked into. Thank you. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you. So before I move to the right, anyone from, yes, please, Ambassador Shakil.
Thank you. Thanks for the invitation also. You know, Nepal and Bangladesh does have a lot of similarities. We are surrounded by India, and we are, entangled with this South Asian culture also. But there are also some challenges, like Nepal landlocked status. I think it does provide some sort of challenges. And of course, this lack of arable land, I think only 21% land is arable in Nepal. So I will just make some specific recommendations. You know, Mr. Pant was telling about the high cost of doing business, and also the extremely, tenuous procedure for land registration, and also other getting permissions. So we can also follow this model of, like having this one-stop tailor-made solution if possible. This is just as a generalist, like Bebza. Someone was alluding to this issue that, if in the export processing zone or the export processing zone, this will also obviate the arduous process or the lengthy procedures if we can have some Nepal export processing zone or Beza exclusive area earmarked. And also, of course, I do agree that import duties does constitute a barrier, regulatory duties, supplementary duties, but also we need to have to look at this, the cost of domestic impositions like VAT, import taxes, advance taxes. This also adds some sort of, cost of a final, product. So, and Bangladesh, I think it's not, one of the lowest tax rates and this VAT and this advanced taxes import duty. So we also have to look into this issue. And another thing I think someone have told about is that this, regulatory or policy measures, like we could have harmonization or, of the procedures, like we had discussed this lot as an ambassador and my previous, position. We had discussed this at the trade-related issues, and of course the mutual recognition of standards, like Bangladesh Standards Trading Institute and Nepal. They could have some sort of mutual recognition of standards. And of course, regarding the preferential access, to encourage domestic production, I think we have to give due weightage to this value-added composition, because we do want to encourage domestic production, not just imports or products coming from other third countries. So this is also a very important factor which has to be factored into the process. And also we have this joint venture we could export to third countries, because after all, Nepal is a landlocked country, so we have to look into this aspect. During my many visits to Nepal, I saw that their wood crafting traditional artifacts are very specialized. So why don't we have them, and we could have industries, furnitures over here. We could bring up their expertise and then export these traditional artifacts to other third countries. And also, last but not the least, this is an important factor. I don't know what is the progress. I think Mr. Muntasir may also be able to tell it, that I had visited Lumbini, this religious, birthplace of Lord Buddha. Bangladesh had given some green signal for this setting up a religious monastery or temple, and they had also sanctioned substantial amount of money for this project. So religious or Buddhist circuit could be a good factor for promotion of tourism. Well, I will end it at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador Mahbub-Zaman, for identifying some of the potential collaboration. Now, yes, first Yusuf, and then coming back to you.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Already a lot has been said, so I'll just recall some of the things that have worked well for Nepal and Bangladesh. Obviously, trade was not doing all that well, but in terms of investment, we have seen that despite both countries being least developed countries, we have seen that there has been some, foreign investment, foreign direct investment. And Pathao is a case in point, which has done really well in Nepal. And there can be more companies like Pathao. There can be Bikash, there can be Walton, there can be Pran, and so many other companies which have huge potential for exploring the market for Nepal. And in this context, as long as the government of Nepal can assure Bangladesh that, Nepal, any foreign direct investment in Nepal will be used for the purpose for which it is intended, and Nepal will not be used as a gateway country for illicit financial flows elsewhere. I think there is no reason why, Bangladeshis will not be encouraged to invest in Nepal, and there is a lot of potential in that. And the other thing that has worked for us well, I think, is the movement of natural persons, which we call under General Agreement of Trade in Services, Mode 4, movement of natural persons. We're seeing that students are coming in from Nepal. We're seeing that professionals are going in from Bangladesh. And in this regard, I think there is also a potential for Bangladesh to explore this further. We can offer scholarships to Nepali students as an exercise in our soft power, also bringing in talents from Nepal, and also exploring other subjects. I think many Nepali students are only coming in for medical school, but not for other subjects. But we see that some of the top Bangladeshi universities are actually not medical schools. They're actually engineering schools or universities which are, offering other subjects and doing really well. So why are not Nepali students coming into a better ranked Bangladeshi university, which is offering an engineering degree, but rather coming in at a relatively lower ranked university offering a medical degree? So that is something we need to explore as well. In terms of tourism, a lot of Bangladeshi tourists are going to Nepal. Nepalis are also coming to Bangladesh, but we see that there have been some concerns about safety, especially in the airports. I know that it is also due to human error that accidents often happen, but I think there is still more to be done from the Nepali side in terms of increasing safety, both road transport safety and also, airport-related safety. That can also, I think, boost our relations. And in coming back to the issue of trade, the benefits of trade have been long established since 1776. But the point is that we still see this reemergence of protectionism and countries trying to protect their domestic industries. And in this particular region, the problem was always this issue of national security. But I think even if we consider national security, I think for India, it is something that they need to, reflect on, that trade between Bangladesh and Nepal is not only mutually beneficial for Bangladesh and Nepal, it's also beneficial for India as the third country, as the transit country. And India can very well address all its national security concerns and still enable trade between Bangladesh and Nepal and still get benefited from them. Because we know that trade is not a zero-sum game. Everybody wins from trade, and that, I think, can happen. So going forward, I think these are some of the things that we need to consider. And Bangladesh and Nepal, since both are graduating next year as LDCs, they will be facing similar challenges after graduation that they have to, live up to more stringent international standards, including under TRIPS and less market access. And these are things where we can collaborate and, we can take things forward. Like, for instance, the India-Nepal treaty, is it compatible with WTO principles of reciprocity and most favored nation? So those are things that Nepal needs to also think about. And other challenges also that Bangladesh will face are similar to that which Nepal will be facing, like in terms of climate change or in terms of improving the productivity of industrial production and improving technology adoption. So these are all issues where we can collaborate, and I think there can be good scope for such work. And I think Nepal Economic Forum and CPD can collaborate on research on these issues in the future. So thank you.
Thank you. You wanted to? Yes. I'll come back to you.
Thank you. I'm Theong Norbu from Asian Development Bank, Bangladesh Resident Mission. I just want to inform, maybe everybody knows about ADB's South Asia Sub-Regional Economic Cooperation, which we call SASEC, which was launched in 2001. And the idea of launching the SASEC initiative was taking the encouragement from the ADB's similar regional cooperation initiatives in GMS and Greater Mekong Sub-Regional Cooperation and CAREC, Central Asia Sub-Regional Economic Cooperation, where these two regions, they have achieved tremendous success. To replicate that in our region, South Asia, in 2001, ADB started this SASEC initiative, and we have initially 6 sectors. Now we have reduced to 3. Initially started with 4 member countries, these BBIN countries. Now we have the membership increased to 7. We have added some more countries. The SASEC actually provides very good platform, and ADB plays a very honest kind of a broker role. ADB provides technical assistance support to do all these studies, knowledge works, and also provides lending and grant support to individual countries in terms of taking care of connectivity, which is very important for trade facilitation. And we have come a long way, and still we have long way to go. The important thing, as we have been hearing from many individuals here, for SASEC to gain traction and showcase tangible results on the ground, it is important for the countries also to come forward, cooperate. ADB is just providing a platform. And for ADB now, in 2014, Strategy 2030 was prepared, and the Strategy 2030 midterm review was conducted last year. It places importance on regional cooperation and integration, which is one of the 5 key focus areas. And ADB will continue, even strengthen support through the SASEC to the countries. And we have the SASEC working groups, which looks into all this technical aspect in both trade facilitation areas like customs harmonization, customs modernization, the issues, challenges that we have been discussing here. Actually, these are all taken care under the SASEC initiative. The recommendations and reflections from this roundtable meeting, I am confident that these are all well aligned with the SASEC program. And we have the SASEC working group meetings coming up in September. Then the senior officials meeting in October this year in Kathmandu. So these are the platforms, opportunities for the member countries to come together to discuss, resolve the issues, and move forward. And about this BBIN, I remember I was in the ATP resident mission in Thimphu. The agreement was signed in Thimphu in 14 or 15. Yes, 2015. The government was very keen. The People's Democratic Party was very keen. They approved. They, from their side, it was through. Unfortunately or fortunately, the constitution of Bhutan requires accession to any such thing by ratification by the parliament. That was the requirement. And the parliament ratification could not happen. So that was the reason. Now we have the same government back in power, and maybe there is opportunity. Let's be optimistic. They have been only 1 year in government, so still 4 more years. So within that 4 years period, maybe Bhutan may change their position. As of now, they are still participating as observer in this BBIN. So there is a good chance now again, because the same government has come back. So they need to, I think, kind of educate the member of parliaments about the benefits of BBIN. Then maybe things may change, so there is opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing ADB's activities and position on regional collaboration. Now, from BIMSTEC, yes, I think we have to close very soon because we have the distinguished guests here.
Good afternoon. I am Uttam Shahi, working at the BIMSTEC Secretariat. Excellencies, distinguished speakers, participants, panelists, thank you. It was a very insightful dialogue. Thank you for organizing this, both the CPD and Nepal Economic Forum. I would also like to share that we have been working closely with the CPD as we have a BIMSTEC network of policy think tanks. So CPD is one of them, out of 7 members of the BIMSTEC. Excellency, I just want to highlight that given the uncertainties in the global politics and economy and trade, and then the declining role of multilateralism, I think the role of minilateralism, or let's say the regionalism, has been growing. So BIMSTEC is one of them, and then I think we should leverage the benefit of this. It has a composition of 7 members. You know that 5 of the members are from the South Asia region and 2 are from the ASEAN region. So it is a combined population of 1.8 billion, which is closely 22% of the global population. So out of several areas of collaboration, cooperation in the BIMSTEC, people-to-people contact is also one of the sectors. Under which we have the tourism, culture, and people-to-people contact forums. And in fact, what I think is that today's discussion is also one of the effort of people-to-people contact among two countries. So I will just briefly highlight what BIMSTEC is doing and what is happening in BIMSTEC. Maybe I am not trying to elaborate more, just to focus on that. On trade, we have already signed the BIMSTEC free trade area. So there are 6 constituent agreements under that free trade area, which are still under negotiation. So still we are waiting to get some result from that. And also we have agreed on the maritime transport cooperation, and also MOU on establishment of BIMSTEC grid connectivity, so which is supposed to connect the grid of the BIMSTEC countries, suppose India, Bangladesh, Nepal. So, and also we do have also under negotiation a BIMSTEC motor vehicle agreement. So this could be, this is covering in fact the issues that are being covered by the BBIN. So this is still under discussion. And then Nepal also had announced during the latest summit in Bangkok that it will establish Center for Culture and Tourism. I think this will also boost connectivity between our countries. So during the summit, latest summit, also leaders they also agreed and then expressed the commitment for the digital cross-border payment, and then the trade settlement in local currencies, and also they committed to expeditiously conclude this free trade agreement of BIMSTEC. So I hope that BIMSTEC could be one potential forum which all the regional, which all the member states in this region can take benefit of. So I think this could be also be focused more on if that what I understood, what I heard from today's dialogue is that it is not only the bilateral issues, it is more than that. So it seems that we could take benefit of this multilateral organization. So I am stopping here. Thank you so much.
Thank you for sharing your experience with BIMSTEC and what BIMSTEC is doing in terms of collaborating or facilitating collaboration between these two countries, and particularly and more specifically among the region. So I think we have had a very good discussions. We are running out of time. We had started a little late, but then we had a very good and productive discussions, both from the presenters, the panelists, and from the floor. We had gathered a lot of knowledge and also the challenges which are very pertinent and which have to be dealt with. Those are the existing collaboration is there, but then how to expand it and move forward by removing the bottlenecks. Those are the challenges, and those challenges are also related to politics of regional politics or the politics of the countries themselves. We have now special guests who will make their remarks. I think some of the issues which have been discussed at the floor are also, towards you. There is an expectation from you to respond to some of those issues, and you are suitably positioned to respond to those queries, particularly how to move forward and how to overcome those challenges, and what are the political position or plans from the respective countries. Let me begin by requesting Mr. Abdul Razak, who is the Chief Executive Officer of Bangladesh Foreign Trade Institute, BFTI.
Thank you, Dr. Fahmida Khatun, giving me the chance. Today, a brief reflection of three key dimensions: strengthening bilateral trade relations, enhancing people-to-people connectivity and tourism, policy and regulatory harmonization. This topic, I wanted to present were largely included in today's important discussion. However, these points highlighted by our friend, Nepali friend, discussant and panel discussant and keynote presenter, which were discussed, a certain lack of trade balance, I think. Our Honorable Sir, Dr. Mustafizur Rahman, nevertheless provided quite a bit explanation about this. But I want to say in my concluding remarks that the preferential trade agreement where is progressing is finalizing, bilateral investment promotion and protection agreement, and MOU between Nepal Food Management and Trade Company and Trading Corporation of Bangladesh. The potential of Bangladesh-Nepal relations is immense, but remain underutilized. Now the time for action, I think. Let us leverage our shared geography, economic complementation, and people-to-people ties to build a resilient, future-ready partnership. I think This roundtable will play a meaningful role in shaping the future of this bilateral relationship. I thank organizer and panelists and participants for your dedication and vision. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Razak, for your comments. Now, I would like to request His Excellency Mr. Ghanshyam Bhandari, Ambassador Embassy of Nepal to Dhaka, for your remarks. And if you could also respond some of the queries posed to you, particularly.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Executive Director, Dr. Famida Khatun, Chairman of Nepal Economic Forum, Mr. Sujeev Sakya, distinguished panelists, my dear colleague from Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Trade Institute of Bangladesh, Professor Mustafizur Rahman, and all distinguished panelists, colleagues from Nepal Economic Forum and Center for Policy Dialogue, distinguished participants. Namaste, good afternoon. Let me begin, first of all, by thanking, as it was also mentioned by some speakers so graciously, that I'm so happy to see the study, this research on Nepal-Bangladesh relations take off. Actually, it was a couple of months back when I had the pleasure of talking to Dr. Khatun herself and Mr. Sujeev Sakya and Dr. Devapriya Bhattacharya about the possibility of such a study. And I'm so honored that they agreed to this idea and they've taken up the study. And on a personal level, it is really, really very satisfying to see this. I commend both institutions for their commitment to fostering dialogue, generating knowledge, and of course, strengthening Nepal-Bangladesh relationship. Like many speakers said before, and this is the least you could expect. I mean, when an ambassador speaks after so many experts, so many economists and ambassadors, very seasoned ones, spoke about our bilateral relationship. I hope I don't put you to sleep. But I have to just touch on a couple of themes that are on our table today for this roundtable dialogue. As you all know, and it was, I think, overall the essence of most of the presentations today, including those from CPD and NEF and also the panelists, that our two countries have huge potential. And it was the overarching theme as far as I could understand, not least because we are so close, also because we have so many similarities, be it in terms of language, culture, lifestyle, our opportunities and challenges, and of course the development story that we have, development journey that we have traveled together. Our aspirations, development efforts have been most of the time very modest, sometime very, of course, adventurous and very bold, but always in the sync, always deeply aligned. That's why we always relate to each other when it comes to opportunities and challenges. As Albert Einstein is quoted to have famously said, we cannot solve our problems with the same level of thinking that created them. I think that is how I understand it. We have challenges, we have, of course, problems as to how we navigate them to strengthen our relationship. And I know Ambassador Tariq Karim would smile when I say, even if in diplomacy, we cannot take control of the substance. Not every substance, not every concrete outcome is in your hand. You should never stop making noise. I think this is the part of making noise, and I commend once again the CDP and NEF for their venture. With regard to the particular themes of today's dialogue, first on trade relations, I don't need to repeat. There is a general understanding that there is a potential and it remains to be underutilized, immensely underutilized, so to say. Of course, there was a reference to PTA being negotiated, and it was also highlighted very candidly. There are certain concerns from both sides, not just from one side. And I hope this PTA will one day be concluded. We are going to have Commerce Secretary level meeting sometime soon, in a couple of months' time, and that is the forum where the product list and all these tariff and non-tariff issues would be discussed. But in addition to this modest level of progress, there is always a perception, both in Nepal and Bangladesh, I have to be very honest with you, both in Nepal and Bangladesh, that economic cooperation between our two countries has not moved to the extent that our peoples would have liked it to. The closer the people are, the closer the countries are, the higher the expectations are. And we need to all admit it. Our expectations are really high. If we were very distant and not so close geographically, culturally, historically, I think our peoples would not expect so much. We all should concede that. But look at the joint ventures, including, of course, there was the reference from Patao, and we are so lucky to hear right from the CEO of Patao. They are doing good business. Akis, Pran has, I think, 6 facilities in Nepal. They're doing quite well. Pharmaceutical companies are expanding their footprint in Nepal, and IT sector. So investment ventures, investment opportunities are being utilized both by Nepali and Bangladeshi entrepreneurs in each other's country. We have, of course, one of the biggest conglomerates, CG Group, Chaudhary Group of Nepal, partnering with Rana Group of Bangladesh, especially in the EV sector. You must have come across a news story which made headline in the New York Times last week that Nepal's new cars, 70% of the new cars are EVs. So we were appreciated, commended for that, and that's where Nepal is leading, and they're partnering with Bangladeshi counterparts to also do the similar, take up the similar initiatives in Bangladesh. Of course, there's the second challenge of ODCs. I think it was very well highlighted. When it comes to trade and investment, I think rather than connectivity, because this corridor of Kakarvitta, Fulbari, Banglaband, Panchagad has been operational since 1997. So that is not a big bottleneck, if you ask me, when it comes to trade. But the bottlenecks are, as you saw with the ODCs, other duties and charges. As far as I understand, I think these other duties and charges would amount to about 57 to 79% of the extra cost that the business community has to bear when the goods need to come to Bangladesh. So we are requesting, of course, there is the MFN clause of WTO, and in front of Professor Mustafizur Rahman. I don't want to go into that. So the easiest way out would be the PTA, but of course PTA has certain challenges. That's where I think the role of the think tanks like CPD and NEF would come, and we would very well take into account the suggestions and the recommendations that the study will produce. Second, of course, the power trade. It is so much in the limelight currently. And we are so happy. Of course, we all agree what we have achieved is a very, very symbolic one. It's symbolic in nature and, of course, in volume. The first trilateral agreement between Nepal, Bangladesh, and India was signed on the 3rd of October 2024, last year. And it has been materialized already. The trial run was held on the 15th of November. And currently, as we speak here today, 40 megawatt of hydroelectricity is coming actually from Nepal through the Indian grid to Bangladesh. I often call it a springboard. This is very symbolic, but a springboard because it is nonetheless the first of its kind in the sub-region, and I'm sure it will be a background on which we can build on our energy cooperation, and we will be able to achieve our aspirations in the future. There was also the reference to the second project, which is Sunkosi Third. That's a project where Nepal and Bangladesh have already agreed to undertake the joint venture investment. So it was already agreed. I know there are certain challenges, not least because Bangladesh is undergoing a certain transitional period, and I hope this JVA would be signed sometime soon. Of course, we need to involve all stakeholders, including India. Indian grid is important for electricity to come to Bangladesh from Nepal. There was also another project of Upper Karnali, 900 megawatt, which is being developed by GMR and Satluj Company of India. And 500 megawatt of that 900 was supposed to come to Bangladesh. But I know these are the negotiations going on between Bangladesh and GMR. I'm sure they will also achieve some tangible outcome sometime soon. Third, on connectivity, for Nepal and for Bangladesh, of course, this is very much an important topic. Currently, we have, I should say, quite robust air connectivity with about 13 flights per week by Biman Bangladesh and Himalaya Airlines. And trade route I already mentioned from Kakarvita, Fulbari, Banglaband. And Mongla and Chittagong port facilities have been offered to Nepal generously by Bangladesh. We are very much thankful to the government of Bangladesh. But they have not been utilized to the optimum level by the business communities of our two countries for bilateral and, of course, third country trade because of distance and the cost of transshipment. It has to do with the rail connectivity from Mongla. Mongla, especially for Nepali business, Nepali traders, would be of particular interest. Once the rail connectivity is established from the lowlands of Nepal, let's say from our land ports to the ports in Bangladesh, I think Mongla port has a huge potential to enhance our bilateral and third country trade. There was also the reference to BBIN. I know BBIN has been there on our table for so many years, and we all agree that when it comes to regional, sub-regional or multilateral platforms, such processes are rather slow and tedious at times. But this MBA has two constituent protocols, passenger and cargo vehicle movement. For passenger vehicle movement, the agreement has already been finalized. There was also the trial run done with the assistance of ADB, if I understand correctly, and cargo vehicle movement agreement also has been under negotiation for some time already. And I am aware that some positive developments are made, and once the trial run is conducted for cargo vehicle, we can expect for some concrete outcome as well. And this is one area where I would recommend that the research, this current research provides recommendation as to how this initiative can be better utilized for all our three countries and, of course, Bhutan as well. And the fourth area on, sorry for taking a little bit of more time, I'll just take a few more minutes. Tourism and cultural links. This is one area that we are so proud of, and our linkages are quite robust, I can tell you. We share a rich tapestry of traditions, cultural linkages, and language affinities. I can go and talk about a lot of connections that our countries and communities, our societies and communities used to have millennia, centuries ago, if not millennia. So there are currently in 2000, if you look at the data of 2024, about 50,000 Bangladeshi tourists visited Nepal, and we have close to 3,000 Nepali students studying in Bangladesh, and we have also the movement of people both ways. And remember, out of these 3,000 Nepali students, about 2,400 are in the medical field. And look at the economic contribution. You all know how much of money the students have to pay for their medical degree. So this is also a component. There's a perception, like I said at the beginning, that economic partnership is not growing, but look at these areas of tourism, education, where our countries are benefiting from each other. Look at the contribution the students are making, but also I always call them the actual cultural ambassadors. You go to Nepali hospital, every other doctor you meet is a Bangladesh graduate, because of the history of Nepali students coming to Bangladesh. So they are the actual goodwill ambassadors of Bangladesh, serving in our very well-equipped hospitals and health institutes of Nepal. Of course, there's one particular very recent story I can share with you, that the Nepal Rashtra Bank, which is the National Bank of Nepal, has decided very recently, they have expressed the intention, it's not yet finalized, to make Taka the convertible currency. As yet, Taka was not a convertible currency. So it would be useful for our students and, of course, the Bangladeshi tourist and traveler going to Nepal. I'm sure in a few months' time we'll have good news to share with you. And there was one particular question maybe in this People-to-People Connect. I can respond to that. I'm sure my colleague from Foreign Ministry will have further updates, but as far as I know, this plan to construct a monastery in Lumbini has it has been gaining momentum. The plot was allocated to the government of Bangladesh a few years ago, but government of Bangladesh has also already approved the budget for the construction of the monastery, and I understand my counterpart, my dear colleague, your ambassador in Kathmandu has been appointed the project director. So this will, I hope, begin sometime soon. But having said this, there's a need to have joint promotional programs, joint collaborative projects to promote our tourist products, so to say, and of course establish what BIMSTEC and SAR calls them, the tourism circuits, promote lesser-known travel destinations, and exchange of art and cultural programs in the same way. Finally, there is one particular area. I know there was some passing references from speakers because I have some 2 cents of mine about multilateralism because of my own experiences of working in Geneva, Brussels, and New York. There's one particular area that is less talked about when we speak about Nepal-Bangladesh relationship. That's our cooperation in the multilateral forum. Look at the way our 2 delegations work so closely at multilateral forums, at the UN, not just with regard to peacekeeping or SDGs or development issues, but also at WTO. The way I can myself narrate the experience of engaging and working so closely with Bangladesh delegation in New York when this LDC graduation resolution was endorsed in 2021. We had especially 2 particular clauses, if you look at that resolution, one relating to 5-year preparatory period, because generally the UN gives 3 years preparatory period for graduating LDCs. And the second one was about the possible triennial review, which could further extend the preparatory period if the graduating LDC is needed. So those were the safeguards we were able to have in Bangladesh delegation, and our own delegation worked so closely. This is just an example. With regard to SDGs, we are most of the time absolutely on the same pace. Not just share similar views, but absolutely speak the similar language. Talk about peacekeeping, about on which I think Nepal is currently #1, and Bangladesh used to be #2, but I think currently #3. So we are always among top 5 peace and police and troops contributing countries to UN peacekeeping. And of course, there was this reference of climate change. We often talk about the organic linkages we have between the Himalayas and the Bay of Bengal. That's where the collaboration with regard to information and data sharing, and of course, working together to mitigate the impacts of climate change would come. So this is not an exhaustive list. These 5-6 areas that I mentioned for the study, that I would humbly request the team to look into all these avenues of our cooperation, not definitely exhaustive, but there are certain other areas which have already featured in the discussion today. Like I said at the beginning, diplomats and politicians most of the time speak in poetry, but act in prose. You know, because challenges are so complicated, the challenges are so big at times, you have to be realistic. So we speak in poetry, but act in prose. I'm sure CPD and NEF will lead us towards actually acting also in poetry and touching our people and meeting their aspirations. So this is a moment, like the presenter said, a moment to reshape the narrative of Nepal-Bangladesh relationship, and I hope this research will definitely add tremendous value to this momentum and help us, all of us, to take this beautiful, very friendly relationship between our 2 countries, also to achieve some more milestones in economic partnership. I thank you all for your patience, and I wish the team all success. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Excellency Bhandari, for your remarks. You have pointed out a number of areas where collaboration can move forward, and also identified a number of issues where research can take place from both sides. So now I would like to request Dr. Syed Muntasir Mamun, Director General, International Trade, Investment and Technology Wing, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Government of Bangladesh, for your remarks.
Thank you very much, Dr. Famda. Ambassador Bhandari, there's no reason why I should feel threatened because of the popularity that Ambassador Bhandari has within even my own circuits. And across any ministry that I'd go, they'd be knowing him and the entire team from the embassy. Well, as you could see, there is this quote that I keep on putting in almost all of the presentations that I have been to. Today is not a presentation, by the way. This is just a couple of remarks and observations that I'd like to have. And I'd like to begin with something that my mentor had said, that it's politics, which when I began my career under the tutelage of at least 2 of the fellows over here. So it's rather daunting to make any comment in front of your own masters. However, if I would say, it's not only politics. I believe that we have gone beyond that. And much to our dismay or chagrin or maybe delight, it's the era of identity politics, who we are, which defines what we do. When we had been first-year students, freshers, we had been economic men and women, of course. Later, when we had been in the service, 20, 25 years before, we had been political men and women. Now, 2025, I don't know who we are. We're men and women, for sure, and other things amongst this, but the future of humanity is probably at a crossroads, as you know, for artificial intelligence. I don't know why people call it artificial intelligence, because it is intelligence, and it's probably more real than real itself. The question is if it's semantics or if it's the actual meaning. The Himalayan frontier, I have decidedly put in the Vajra seal over there because my friend over here, whose writings I'm an avid reader, keeps on speaking about unleashing the Vajra. So unleashing the Vajra requires you to actually go to the roots of it. Other than the god king Indra, there is also another root, which is you inside. The traditions of the Vajra starts not only with Lumbini or the Sudur Pashchim, but also in Vajra Yogini, in Dhaka, in Vikrampur, just 20-25 kilometers south. So the Himal, Pahar, Terai, the three regions, the three thematic regions of Nepal, we have tried to make some study on it while we had been discussing and also researching on today's presentation that what we are going to discuss. I spoke to the territorial wing. Today when I'm making this presentation, it's not entirely a government presentation. This is also my personal observations. I believe that adds value. The government observations, you will find, just search the net, you'll find it. But what I saw was, probably we need a little bit of imagination in the way that we share, perceive, conceive, and envision the future that we'd like to live in. And probably that is where the most of the hurdles and bottlenecks is. Dr. Pant was speaking about the half a marathon. Now, I run a marathon almost every 2-3 days. Is it the real distance between Nepal and Bangladesh? I am an avid fan of Professor Mustafiz is there, the gravity model of business. Now, that's economic distance is not the geographic distance is not the only distance. It's also the economic distance between the countries and also the mass between the economies, which probably determine the flow of trade. Let's say in a very hypothetical situation, if Nepal and Bangladesh economies were merged, were fused together, what would be the nature of that economic outcome? Have we thought about it? As Mr. Bhandari has said, connectivity is not really an issue. The Kakarbhita is functioning, the roots. The issue is somewhere which would like to, again, another elephant, apart from one elephant, there's another elephant that would not like to speak about, tariffs and protectionism. Now, since Bangladesh has embarked on creating FTAs, free trade agreements, and also CEPAs, I think CEPAs are becoming more of a norm these days, that comprehensive economic partnership arrangements. PTAs are becoming rather old. This all sensitive list, positive, negative, these are probably more time-consuming and less interesting, less imaginative, more boring. Geographic distance is just one bit. I have seen that there are 5 things which have come up again and again. Geography, the industrial cooperation, youth engagement, proximity, and 82 NTBs and PTBs, which 82 only one person has referred to. But I have seen at least 11 things which have not come up at all. First, knowledge brokering. Only one person has spoken about how many Bangladeshi doctors or Bangladeshi graduates in medical fields are there in Nepal. Or it's just not only about skills or upgrading your skill sets, it's also about creation of knowledge. In next 3 to 5 years of time, I'll just refer very briefly, because part of my presentation is based on facts. The other part is fiction, if not fantasy. So you must excuse me for that. The second thing which has not come up is finance. No one has spoken about finance. Now, I'm not blaming you, it's just that it surprises me. No one has spoken about private equity, which I started my career in private equity, but I don't see it spoken anywhere, nowhere in South Asia. And when we compare Nepal, how do I see Nepal as a Bangladeshi? I see Nepal as a Switzerland of Asia. It's practically same. Switzerland is 215 persons per square kilometer. Nepal is 202, probably. The economy is 45 billion. That's the only difference, probably. CRO, clinical research organizations, and also other pharmaceutical organizations. We speak about youth, but we tend to forget about established business houses, which already have track records. We are always very youthful about the youth, which is very good. But what about the established track records of business houses? What about the enterprise formations? What about the fifth freedom of aircrafts? That if we could connect cities, what makes us resilient? Someone spoke about the resilience of Bangladesh. Now, Nepal is also resilient. It has survived earthquakes, disastrous earthquakes, and come back almost intact. How? This is where I believe that we need to go a little bit deeper, and we need to understand who we really are. What makes us who we are? Economic snapshots are there. This is probably, if we just would like to put it in one slide, this is it. GDP, Bangladesh is 470, Nepal is 45, SME sector contributes 25%, Nepal is 22 to 23%, key sectors RNG, pharma, ICT, hydropower and tourism in Nepal, FDI 3.48 billion in stock, 63 million in Nepal. Is that all that we are? Really? I don't think so. The reason is not only because of the unrealized trade potential between Bangladesh and Nepal, which is, of course, some say that it's because of the connectivity issues, some say that it's because of third-party issues, some say that it's because of tariffs and non-tariff barriers, which we come up across CD, SD, RD, AIT, and other, the whole bunch of additional costs which are associated with importing into Bangladesh, but which we are giving up slowly and gradually because of the trade facilitation agreement that we are party to. And there's also this National Trade Facilitation Committee. So I'd like you to have a look at it. This is not the right forum to speak about all those things, but these are happening. I'd like you to see what we are doing. We have already almost concluded more or less an FTA with Japan, and we are working with UAE, we are working with Singapore, we are working with a couple of other countries about comprehensive economic partnership agreements. The non-tariff barriers like SPS, TBT, asymmetric transport rules, and for me, licensing, it's almost like a relic of the 70s. And that's still very much prevalent in Nepal. So I was speaking about tariffs and non-tariffs, or let's say para-tariffs in Bangladesh, but licensing is a factor in Nepal, for that matter. But should we only move ourselves through those lines of what we saw 20 years before, 40 years before, and still continuing? Or maybe build on it, build on efficient supply chains, predictable businesses, attract investors in VCs and PEs, trade finances. I'm very happy to see that Patao is here, because I was looking for cases which we could present as a proof of the concept, that, okay, things like this could happen. And the CEO has kindly mentioned that last year, when we all had been out of internet, they had put their operations to Nepal. What if we could make it a little bit more? What would be the vision for the future? Personally, I'm not a monetarist. I'm more of the Austrian school of business, or economics for that matter, the way that I see to it. I don't see that my productive capabilities, my productive intentions, my productive aspirations should be bound or bounded back by an arbitrary holding of foreign currency. If Nepal, this was something that I would have had made a comment on, that we could have actually a currency exposure mechanism, not exactly a swap, but some sort of a blockchain-enabled currency exposure mechanism between Bangladesh and Nepal. And if Taka becomes convertible in Nepal, I think that would solve much of the problem. Because then currency, the fiat currency, is just a piece of paper. Nothing else, just a piece of paper. The question is how much value it carries. So I would like to urge on, personally, a shift from being a monetarist to the Austrian school. And not only Austrian school, I'm not advocating for them only, but go to the deep. Let us reimagine the partnerships very boldly. there's something that I've put in, the Cassandra's curse. Ambassador Bhandari has spoken about diplomats and politicians, and I believe that both carry the problem of being subjected to this, that he would like to say something, but would be understood as something else. And what happens to that? Now, if you look at, I'm not sure how many of you know about Cassandra, the Trojan princess. She could see into she could just look into the future and tell what it is. The curse was nobody would believe her. And eventually, after Agamemnon had taken her back to his harem of that sort, she was basically killed by his overzealous wife. But that's the end of it. Now, there's some postulates that in 1,000 years, nothing really changes. I've taken it from Ibn Khaldun. I'm sure that many of you have gone through his writings. But one thing for sure, that everything changes always. And there is an end to a cycle, and there is a new cycle which is beginning. Bangladesh and Nepal share a bond which is much beyond centuries, probably beyond millennia. And that is something to do with the Vajrayana rendition of Buddhism that we see. So when someone asks that what is Buddhism, it's not one. It's Vajrayana, Mahayana, Hinayana, and so many other things. So the spiritual circuitry that we have, that we share between Bangladesh and Nepal, the Sufism in Bangladesh and the Vajrayana in Nepal are almost parallel. I'm not saying it's the same or similar. It's parallel, like growing two different trees on the same time. So there needs to be a shift in the imageries that we need to work on, because a wave is coming. You know the wave equation. When you add one wave function to another, it just adds up. Look at last 20 years of evolution in technology. Look at last 1 year or maybe less than 1 year of evolution in large language models. Next 3 years, we are going to see much more. The tenor, the peaks and the troughs would be much more pronounced, and the tenors would be much lesser. So it would be frequent. And this would not only be technology, associated ideations, aspirations, ambitions, and demands from individuals, from people, from enterprises would be very different. People who thought that they are secure in their own status quo would not be secure anymore. Individuals, enterprises, situations will demand answers to questions which probably no one has ever seen or heard before. Relationships between two countries would probably have to answer to those questions as well. We have 8 underpinnings: urban concentration, innovation, employment, entrepreneurship, payment mechanisms, and complementary asset portfolios and institutional voids like all we have been carrying. What we see is the rise of liquid institutions. That's something that we have been working on at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, because this is a time check that we have been having for last 4 or 5 years, more than that, that how we are evolving. I started in 2020, and if you look at 2100, in 100 years or maybe 80 years of time, how much technology and how much our understanding of technology and how much infusion of technology would take shape. The current understanding is, the reason that I wanted to come to this level, this particular slide is, timelines are crashing. Multiple timelines are crashing into one. What had been for the last 40 years, 50 years, maybe 100 years, probably will not hold in next 3 to 5 years' time. That's why I said this is not a government prediction, this is just our personal observations. Something which is coming, which will change the way that we look at life, living, and everything around us. And that's why probably we'll need a strategic business framework to work on. That Bangladesh and Nepal, I was reminded by Dr. Fahmida's letter that we need to work on 3 pivots. We have merged these pivots together into one spectrum, one seamless flow of actors and institutions. Like from the consumer market to factor markets, we're bringing innovation, technology, business, and finance into one box and see where we are lacking, and then we solve it. The idea in abstract is that there is institutional voids, like our efficiencies and deficiencies in political, economic, trade, and other architectures. There is this institutional voice, which we all carry from Bangladesh because of colonial legacies, from Nepal probably because of disconnect from other areas, because what had been 1,000 years before is not there practically, but it is there in the mind. So there is institutional voids, but there is also inquiet demands, that we know we want something, but we cannot really articulate what we want. And then we have already deployed assets. Now, this is where we leverage our potential on. I'd like to leave this, this place with two particular sets of ideas that I'd like you to think of. These are issues that I'll leave the presentation with the organizers, so that if someone is interested, that someone could have a look at it. I'd like to see that, or personally my wing would like to see that our productive capabilities are underwritten by a distributed ledger, so that we are not stymied, so that we are not constrained by the economic distances that our two economies or our two systems have. And that is why it's not only blockchain per se, blockchain is there, but correctness, consistency, mutability, traceability, this needs to go to some sort of a trust mechanism, so that the system becomes trustless and the transactions become more generic and institutionalized. Disruptions to finance, markets, and ratings are important, but what is more important is just one point that I'd like you to look at, that Nepal's remittance flows. No one has spoken about remittances. In last 10 years, or let's say 15 years, I was making some assessments. Between 2018 and 2019, something happened. Suddenly, the Nepalese inflow of remittances started growing up. And if you look at it, Bangladesh also experienced almost similar trends, almost similar, not same. The configuration between Nepalese and Bangladeshi remittances is from where it is coming. Nepal's remittance flow is coming from India, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Malaysia, UAE, Australia, USA, South Korea, Japan, and others. And Bangladeshi remittances are concentrated in Saudi Arabia, UAE, United States, UK, Kuwait, Qatar, Oman, Malaysia, and others. The inflection point is between 2019 and 2020. Someone said that Nepal is actually a rich country, but doesn't look like so. Our study, we did a 297-point study last 2 days. Our study suggests that the personal disposable income in Nepal is really very high. Maybe it is not well recorded yet. It will definitely come up shortly in a matter of time. Nepalese remittances is at $475 advantage than that of Bangladesh. Per capita remittance from a Bangladeshi abroad and from a Nepalese abroad has a distance of $475 in nominal terms, which is quite large. It's almost 20%. And the initial thrust, the investment in outward migration of a Nepalese citizen is hardly 1/4 of a Bangladeshi, which means Nepal is supposed to be, inshallah, God willing, flush with money. Money should not be a problem. And that's why a consumer economy will soon flourish. It's just a matter of time. It's going to blossom. That's how I see. So what trade is going to happen when there is a booming consumer economy and a very strong, tightly knit Bangladesh economy? What kind of trade do you think is going to happen? Do you think it's going to remain within ready-made garments? Even if we flood Nepalese market with ready-made garments, it's 24 million in total. That's not the case that we'd like to look at. We'd like to look at something else. Proposition, just an idea. Don't say that it's Bangladesh government idea. It's just an idea that I'd like you to think about. What if we could have, since we have the bid management consulting here, we have the Nepal Foundation here, what if we could have Himalayan Bengal Tech Alliance? Imagine data centers. The cost of production for data centers, particularly energy, would be close to nowhere. It's 2 to 3% max. And I don't really believe that trade thinks about national boundaries. Trade happens when there is an opportunity. There's no opportunity, there's no trade. For Nepal, building a data center is almost nearly impossible to compete with for any other country in South Asia. What if we build it together? There is an assumption and enablers with just a modest growth. I did 2 simulations. That's why I say that last 2 days we have been making some simulations. On its own, purely on its own, even with lots of money, the possibility of having a Nepalese data center in next 5 years is less than 15%. But with Bangladeshi investment, and certainly with other countries' investment as well, I'm not saying that Bangladeshis are the only investors, it is as high as 45 to 55%. With only Nepalese, less than 15%. With just a third country or second country investment, it goes up to 45 to 55%. The job creation possibilities with just a $2 to $3 billion of market value investments, it could be like $15 billion by 2040 in 15 years' time. And AI patents and startups would be 500 plus. That's a simulation. I'm not saying it's going to happen. This is a simulation that we have done. There is this possibility of Bengal Himalayan Finance Alliance. What if we could think of underwriting our enterprises, individuals? See, one of the key things that we have learned in Bangladesh, if you look at Grameen Trust, Grameen Bank, whatever, it's not the money that matters. It's about the support which matters. If an individual, if an enterprise is supported, that individual, that enterprise can flourish. What if we could have a finance alliance with tech and PE, private equity, and also underwriting and maybe subscription in the equity markets? Again, the simulation suggests on its own, with Nepal alone, the possibilities are high, close to 25% in next 5 years. But with the third country, it goes up to 75, 80% possibility of happening. Now, these are businesses. I'm not a business person. I'm just making simulations. My area is artificial intelligence and fintech. The finance market value would be from a $5 to $7 billion worth of investment, initial investment, it would go up to $20 to $30 billion, which means 5 times more than what the initial investments would be. Now, there are enterprises here, which are already established enterprises over here. What if the other bigger enterprises would stem into it? And the third part, which I could not finish my projections or simulations with, was about the traditional medicine and others. The Nepalese traditions have a very strong repertoire of traditional medicines. I think there is an 11-volume book on the Indian traditional medicines, which was compiled 200 years before, but much more than that, 1,000 years before. There were philosophers and mathematicians who had been working out on medicinal properties of plants. That's an area which is of immense potential. That's why I could not finish I have limitations of my compute power. So I could finish the simulations. So if we could highlight each of the sutras which is there, and if we could convert it into real tangible medication, sky's the limit. Or maybe there's no limit at all. So, Kovadi, one of my superiors would have had put in another word to the end, but I'm not putting there. Kovadi, where do we go from here? The answer is anywhere that you would like to go. It's an open slate. Anything that you'd like to draw is there. I'll tell you a secret. The last slide was from Alice in Wonderland. I don't know why it had not come. Probably we can actually make our own story. So that's where we are. We'll be there. If there's anything, I'd like to invite each of you to the Minister of Foreign Affairs to have a cup of coffee. I think we make the best coffee in the city. And that's a bold claim, and I must admit that that's a claim that I'd like to stand by to and stand up to. Thank you very much, and thank you again, Dr. Fahmida, for giving us the opportunity to participate in this wonderful, wonderful expose of human ambition, talent, and interest. It's nothing more than a passionate congregation of individuals. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mamun. This is a fascinating presentation. I wish this should have been the keynote presentation, in fact, then we could discuss. Sorry that it had come just to the end. I mean, you are the last speaker, but of course not the least. But I think this has provided us a lot of food for thought. And these are the types of simulation or exercises which lead us to policy recommendations. So thank you once again, and I hope that we will have more opportunities to listen to you and understand more about this model which you have applied in the case of Nepal, but this is equally applicable to other countries as well. So we are at the end of our roundtable discussion. A lot of discussions have happened, and we have a lot of ideas, recommendations. But I'm not in a position to summarize that, and we don't have time also, as well as I have mentioned that this is very difficult to summarize, because then I'll not do the justice, because so many useful recommendations have come, and also the speakers have lamented various challenges and opportunities with experiences. They all have their own share of experiences in working in their respective areas and respective field. But at the end, what I want to say that going forward, I mean, what next? So this is the second dialogue, but then what do we do after these dialogues, and how long these types of dialogues can go on? Because what we want to see is the implementation. And someone has mentioned that when it comes to implementation, then we go on and on and on. We don't see much. And also Ambassador Bhandari mentioned that, we talk poetry but act prose. So I don't know how to, act also like a poetry. But I think the discussions have to go on. That there's no, firstly, I mean, there's no way that we can stop, because it might sound boring at times, but then the importance of discussions and debates is always very high. We should not stop that. And the role of think tanks is that you raise issues, you scrutinize the issues and make recommendations, and it's up to the policymakers to implement those. But it doesn't happen so frequently. That's what I felt a sort of frustrations among many speakers. But then within these frustrations, countries work, and then progress also happen. In case of both Bangladesh and Nepal, there are a lot of commonalities which have been highlighted by all the speakers, that both Bangladesh and Nepal are graduating, so they are at a crossroads. Graduation, LDC graduation is a symbol of strength, but it also comes with a lot of challenges. The challenges of losing various flexibilities, losing the duty-free, quota-free market access, losing the access to finance at a concessional rate, expectations for high compliance, and so on. So that means that the countries, both Bangladesh and Nepal, will have to work harder to be at par with the global expectations, because as a developing country, the expectations from its economic partners are very high. We have to be very compliant when you want to do trade with other countries. So it's not only that Trump tariff, but in general, post-graduation challenges are very formidable challenges. So, and with limited resources, these challenges are really something that we'll have to work harder. Diversifications, efficiency improvement, adoption of technology. So these have been mentioned again and again, and there are areas and opportunities to work together. And as Ambassador Mandari have mentioned a number of areas, he specifically mentioned 4 areas, and many other speakers also mentioned about starting from energy trade to technology, IT, then IT services, and then education, health, climate issues, and all these. So, and the issue of improving ourselves from making from comparative advantage to competitive advantage. To do that, both countries have to work harder together and individually. So, and the issue of global and regional politics have also come into the play. Many speakers have highlighted and touched upon, because at the end of the day, no matter how much we talk and how many good recommendations we make, it is the policy makers, it is the political commitment which will be required for implementation. So I think we will continue to work on going forward the areas which have been pointed out. We will make a list of that and prioritize that, and then we will work together and those who have come today to discuss and provide your inputs. You are also, welcome, and we'll be involving you, keep you abreast of the development, and also we look forward to meet you again, because this is an ongoing process. It will continue for quite some time. I think for several years, because the history of collaboration, I mean, we have mentioned about BBI and BIMSTEC, SAFTA, many other initiatives which have been ongoing for several years without much improvement, but then this process have to go on. So I look forward to work together, and thank you very much those who have, our guests who have traveled from Nepal. I wish you a pleasant stay, and we look forward to welcome you to Bangladesh once again, and those who are in Dhaka, thank you once again for joining CPD's dialogue. Your support and goodwill have been our, our incentive and our strength, actually. So with your support and collaboration, we have been working on trade issues and along with many other issues. So thank you once again for sparing your time this morning. We wanted to finish at 1 o'clock, but I think the discussion has been so rich that I don't regret, but I know you are so busy. So thank you, and please join us for lunch.